details for who's applying to volunteer and what title and group he's a member of. Anna, you'd probably appreciate it too, because the email is @celine.gov.
That's good. Yep.
And the phone number, I dug it out of like Dragon number 8, because that was the Dragon magazine phone number. Yeah, scroll down. You gotta keep going there. That's a little blurry. Keep going. You get to the next one. Keep going. Keep going. There, that one. That's the readable details. I thought that was funny.
Melfordceline.gov.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And the phone number is like the old TSR phone number, and I made sure that's not like the new TSR phone number.
That would be a problem.
Yeah.
A minor issue.
That's the Celine.gov. I thought that was
Nice.
because we needed new images. So anyway, that's not all right. I'm gonna drop off and let you guys do it. I'm gonna be
Lurking? You're going to be lurking.
Yeah, I gotta finish this thing up with.
All right, Josh. Thanks, man.
Thanks for letting me take up your time. That looks gorgeous, by the way, and I will hit up Dave now.
All right. Let me know if you are hit by study silence and I can send it to you.
All right, we're good. We're ahead of schedule too. Woohoo!
God damn, you got no idea how much time I wasted on that.
That's all right. That's one little thing.
That's good.
And it was a filter.
Yep.
Yep. It's
And
all right.
the thing was that you had the Twitch above it, and once I saw mine and your face going around, and it was like, Dad, you have Zoom in there.
Yeah.
And then that I realized that what the heck is, and the rest was blurry, and I saw your screen, it was blurry. It was like you just showing the Zoom screen, and yeah.
Stuff happens. It's okay.
Yep.
I mean, it's like I remember I was in a contest back in high school when we were learning like Pascal or something, and I forgot you had to assign the variables back then, and I spent hours, 6 hours.
You
on
learned
this.
cool IT shit like that in school?
Yeah,
You're
back in the day.
We did programming too.
I
Yeah,
had like one lesson in high school of programming. That was it.
I did
And a couple of university when we had statistics. We learned some.
not set it.
That was it. That was basic.
Yeah, it was basic for me too. I'm pretty sure it was just basic.
Yeah, we were the first ones who had calculators in junior high school. That was like 7th grade. We had calculators. That
I
was
always
new.
remember I was maybe 8 or 9 years of age, and you've got this big huge honking calculator. And I always remember a teacher saying to me, you won't have that throughout your life, so you have to learn your long division or long multiplication. And now, of course, I'm sitting here with I'm pretty sure I'm trying to get
And we actually had one lesson when we learned these, or whatever they called it, I don't know what they called it in English, the one that you used to the slide.
The slide rules.
Yeah, slide rules, yeah. And they had a big
my
one
gosh.
about the blackboard, and we had one lesson how to use it. That was
That's
the last
clever,
one.
and I never got that lesson.
Yeah.
If you want to look really super smart, you break out a slide rule.
Yeah, I know how they work in principle, because I remember
Oh,
that.
you're probably the type that are flying at 50,000 feet and you got a slide rule. So
Well, no, it's for the ones that construct.
and you're
the
flying
jumping.
upside down, calculating some kind of trajectory. You're the scientist out of the two of us. I was talking to Jack earlier on about our differences and what we care about in maps, because you start thinking about pixels and CMYK and all that. It's extremely intimidating. But that's because you approach things as a science. In my 12 years of professional mapping, I have never had to worry about any of that stuff ever. And I was trying to talk to Jack about how do I even broach this, and he was like, he came up with actually an example of Fred Astaire and someone else. And it's like Fred Astaire is like the dancer that actually is the scientist and how he does everything. Well, I'm like the flyby now. I get the job done, and the end result is great, but it's a lot simpler.
No, and the idea for these home games or her home games, you don't have to worry about it. You can just doodle, and as long as you like the maps, you can just live with it, so to speak. It's depending on what ambitions you have.
Well, for you, hey, are you saying I don't have ambition? No, but for you, color matters. One shade off on a pixel makes a difference to your elevations and your maps and everything else.
Just in some
But
way,
me,
but
it doesn't. It makes no difference.
I'm going to show my dungeon doodle tonight, and yours is fantastic compared to mine. But it's the basic doodling here, so yeah, quite fun.
I'm not doodling live on camera. I'm not doing any of that.
I'm just going to show the principle of things, just in case you've been doodling live on camera for weeks on your live streams.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did it for years.
Don't get scared on me now here.
I'm not doodling on my Wacom tablet over here. I'm just looking at my big main screen. I'll show a couple of the maps that I've
That'll be fun.
I'll show the ink work that I've done because we're going to talk about layers. I'm going to turn on layers.
You're the pro here. I'm just the know-it-all.
Get out.
Hello,
Jack. I can't have my
we have a Jack signing.
Yeah. Wow, Jack. Oh, it's Fred Astaire versus Gene Kelly. I'm Gene Kelly. You're Fred Astaire. And it's a weird analogy, but it works. Fred Astaire was precise and scientific with his dancing, his tap dancing, and people would look at it, obviously acknowledge it was fantastic, would not think that they could do it. That's you. Gene Kelly would do something that was more than people thought that they could do, like dancing in the rain. That's me.
Okay.
It's like, it's good, but people look at it and go, I could do that. And that's kind of what I do. I just draw on paper. I've got my pencil. I'm drawing on my Wacom. I even do how-to videos. People go, yeah, I could do that. But then in comes Anna with her swordfish, like 6 monitors or 12 computers and NASA. And people go, I can't do that. It's intimidating as hell. But the net result is fantastic.
Damn, no, we have to end this. No, I'm just kidding. We have to move. Thank you.
You are Fred Astaire. And I think the next time that we go to Gamehole Con and it's Halloween, we need to dress up as Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Don't ask me to dance because that would be
don't ask me to dance.
That would be the worst disaster ever.
That'd be cool.
That would be it.
I've never been to Gamehole Con.
It's a great convention. Yeah.
It is.
Although it's on Halloween, that would be really tough.
Yeah.
For my son.
Well, it's in that Halloween period, right?
Yeah.
And occasionally it will fall on Halloween or that Halloween weekend. And it did a few years ago.
Yeah, and Alyssa and me, we had a seminar without any. We didn't show a single map. We talked about cartography for 2 hours. Alyssa had a Roman armor on,
right?
Fabulously awesome. We talked about mapping for cartography for 2 hours. We didn't have any screen monitor or anything because they didn't provide any. So we just had to sit there for 2 hours, and it was a complete disaster. It was fun.
It was our magnetic personalities just carried the show.
Yep.
And when I say our magnetic personalities, I am, of course, talking about Anna.
Well, no, you were the magnetic one. You had the armor on.
Well,
you were literally magnetic.
Like me, or I will hit you with my sword. No, but there's a great. Actually, I've still got that photo of you and me, together, and I've got the armor on. We've got some good photos together, and I'm always dressed up in them because remember when we first
and I'm not. I'm just sweaty, going from a booth or whatever, and something, and you're dressed up. I remember the first one we met at Gen Con, like 8, 9.
And I had that big corset on, and I had the big hat with the feather.
You look gorgeous. Yep. And I was just coming from breakfast and all sweaty, walking around in the morning to look at the pre-show and it was like 105 degrees in the exhibit hall because they didn't have air conditioning on the and in the visitors.
I remember that.
So it was like 105 degrees in there. So I was all sweaty.
Talking of which, by the way, have you noticed?
Yeah.
I got rid of like 18 inches of hair. Just get out of it. I'm done with the long hair.
Gino, Meerkat, what's everyone go? So you might want to pass the word. Of course, Chuck can't be outdone. So we have our normal 2 giveaways from Frog God. We got he threw some Troller Games ones in there. Of course he did, right? I mean, we're not gonna have any crazy thing like 30-some giveaways like that over Christmas, but we'll have some extra stuff tonight.
Sit down here too.
It's good that we honestly the fogs and falls. They're my favorite on this. They are my favorite companies.
They are fantastic.
They're like extended family.
Good to hear. They're cool, both of them.
Oh, Anna's leaving. Okay, bye,
Yeah.
Anna. See ya.
She's sitting now. The whole time she was standing and we don't even realize
I've been standing all day. I haven't sit down until now.
It's the way to do it. I've been sitting down for 2 years.
I feel like I've been sitting down way too much, but today I got it. So. Yeah.
We got ourselves a pull-up bar, so we could. It's part of our home exercising
Bar sounds
routine,
kind of cool. Yeah.
and I could do 2. I used to be able to do like 12, so there's some exercise I've done again.
Oh, I thought you were talking about drinks. Bar
You
and
know
drinks.
me too well, young lady.
That's awesome. Hey, Sparky. Stretching this out a little bit so we don't come on too early. We've had a habit of coming on way too early lately, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Maybe we have to hold on a bit here.
Ah,
And I
we're
need
okay.
to feed my little
Yeah,
familiar
big
here
help.
too, so she's sleeping and being quiet while we have the show.
My wife's in with the new cat we adopted, so
Oh, how's that going? Is she?
it's going well.
is she
She's getting more, we're getting more used to. By the way, I didn't change the bottom picks from last because I was like, I'm just gonna leave them. So,
Yeah, we didn't have any new ones.
yeah,
We
so
will
I
have
just
new
left them
ones.
from
We can have
last time.
live screen things, so yeah.
What's up,
But
Larry?
I think that's okay. I think, look, we've got the old Galicon map.
Yeah.
And we'll show the new one. I might show you London, so.
Excellent, David.
Well, you can show some live London. How the layering is done. and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I've got to be talk about PSDs versus PSBs. That one is a PSB, so.
Yeah.
I want to hear it all because I'm really much. I know enough to be dangerous. Anna's taught me enough to use Photoshop, and it's just,
Yeah.
But it's like if I have to engineer something beyond what I know, then I have no idea what I'm doing.
I plan on learning from Anna tonight too, because I don't know what I'm doing either. So we're in the
Come
same
on,
boat.
you've done
okay?
this for a decade. You know very well what you're
Hey,
doing.
I only started using masks with like gusto about 2 months ago.
Wow.
Seriously. Yeah.
Okay.
Anna, you give me way too much credit. Remember, I'm a pen and paper girl. And my needs are simple. So when people start getting fancy schmancy, like, just put a color adjustment layer on there, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
So you literally just doodle it out and then doodle it back in again. if
I
it doesn't
used
look
to.
good.
I
Okay.
used to. Like,
There's some
I
neat
would.
stuff.
I know Photoshop users say, do not permanently erase something. I would permanently erase stuff all of the time. I used to Twitch stream it and say there are no takebacks on this dojo. No sensei. No, there's no history in this dojo. No sensei. I was all about just committing. Throw your head into the meat grinder.
So
and
you
then
map like a
someone
barbarian,
showed-
and I map like a fighter or a ranger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then someone showed me, like, actually, well, try using a mask to erase content. Blew my brain. And now I use them all of the time.
Mhm.
That makes
So
sense.
we're gonna learn a lot tonight. Hopefully, I do at least, and the audience does. And it sounds like Alyssa needs to too.
I've got my pen and paper. I plan on making notes from everything that Anna tells me tonight.
Good evening. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba, and with me for the 9th episode of the Fantasy Mapping Show. It's been 9 months already. The great
Yeah.
Alyssa Faden and the wonderful Anna B. Meyer. Good evening to both of you as we paint and draw tonight. So this, I guess this is going to go basic. Start right at the beginning, right?
This is going to go anywhere.
It's going to go anywhere. We're going to go all over the place, but
Yeah, we'll see what we
okay.
end up, so to speak. And
that sounds really good. So tonight, our sponsors, of course, for our Guide Games, the sponsors of the Fantasy Mapping Show, and our channel, one of our channel sponsors, Trollord. Let me set this up now so we can get this rolling here. But we have, I have at least 4 giveaways, at least, and I may have more depending if we get a hype train. But we have 4 right now, which is cool. We have 2 $25 gift certificates from Frog. We have 2 Darlene Haunted Highlands PDFs from that map. We're giving that away too. So we have that as well. So we got to start off. throw some tidbits out there. So good to see you both. And this is one of those. It's been a long week for me. If I fall, it's not because I'm. I'm gonna let you two talk tonight. I mean, this is out of my realm completely. So have at it, Anna, Alyssa, whoever wants to start off here on the general gist of where we're going with this discussion.
Anna, why did you set up what we're going to be doing today?
Okay, well, the idea was to talk about how to make your own maps from scratch, so to speak. Meaning, if I want to start drawing maps and want to use digital tools and not draw them on pen and paper, and I want to use some sort of drawing or inking tools or something in computers, meaning what kind of basic knowledge do I have? What kind of tools do I want to use? And what are the basic things that I need to learn, so to speak? This is not about mastery, and it's not about knowing which menu and which button to press. This is about knowing what tools to go for, and a little bit of what the tools can do, and what kind of concepts or ideas and knowledge do I need to have to start learning, so to speak. So you have something to start hanging up ideas on, and a little bit of where to go. And it's a little bit of the seat or the pants, because like a lot of you know that we are kind of chaosy. I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning, and I've been on Zoom calls, and there's been a whole bunch of serious stuff. So it's wonderful to now dig into mapping and fantasy realms and stuff like that, rather than real world serious problems. So, but if I'm slightly mushy now and then you know why, so to speak, that it's been a long day so far, but this is good. So this is kind of the dessert of the day, the wonderful bit. So yeah.
So I guess we have to start somewhere on, and I know, Anna, you set up a little agenda here. Like right off the bat, I have no idea what the difference is. I don't have any clue what the difference between a bitmap or vector is. I just don't know.
Yeah, that's the two types of graphics on when you do things on a computer. You have bitmap graphics and you have vector graphics. Okay. And the difference, if you want to kind of take them into real world, that will be like a bitmap will be like you make a brick wall. You take pieces of things that have certain colors, and then you simply paste one to the next to the other. So it's like a brick wall, and vector is line art, so to speak. It's simply lines that you can then fill if you want to. And the cool thing with line art vector is that you can make them larger and smaller, and they have perfect resolution. So if you want to make cool stuff that you want to blow up and put like a shield or text, especially text and stuff, and you want to make it gigantic, that's when you use vector art. And you can combine the two, and then it can get really interesting. And it's more like if you're the person who wants clean things, like for instance, that old blue style, remember back in the day, or very, very basic dungeons, that can be kind of an idea to use it vector, and because then it's very simple. And text is usually vector in a lot of these tools, is vectorized, because you can change the style. And the other benefit of vector art is that the file sizes are minuscule compared to bitmaps. Bitmaps blow up and become enormous in size. But bitmap has a lot of cool things. You can do a lot of cool effects, and you make it look gorgeous and more complicated and stuff than vector.
When would you use one over the other, Anna?
I'm going to have a little example of showing you what one would look like here. So let's meet.
Here we go. The magic screen. We're going to try this out. No. Oops, wrong one. Backwards. I got it backwards.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. So here is a version of this is up-to-date work, so to speak. This is one of the maps of my new atlas. And this one is a combination. I'm using Adobe Illustrator because you can show bitmap graphics in it, but you can't manipulate it. That's Photoshop realm. But so here you have bitmap and vector graphics. And if I zoom in on a bit of the Dreadwood or something here, now you start seeing that the background here is bitmap. And you can start zooming in, and now you can see the bits, so to speak, here. You can see that these are just pics, and I can zoom in, and now I can zoom in really close, and here this is vector. And the good thing with this is that when you print it, the text and stuff will use the highest resolution of the printer. which means that if the printer, a lot of printers can print at 1200 DPI, 3600 DPI or something like that. That means that the text and these symbols will be as crisp as the printer can deliver them.
Okay.
But the background terrain here is set to 300 DPI, I think it is, because that's set in the image itself. But it doesn't matter as much, because when you print and they're slightly blurry, the pixels would disappear on the terrain, but the line art and the text and stuff and all the symbols and the text and that will be much sharper, so to speak. So that's the benefit of using both. Symbols and text especially are really beneficial to use vector, especially with printing it.
So Andy from Norway, good to see, Orcus Rex, asks a question about how powerful is your computer?
My computer is, a lot of people I kind of asked, so let my computer is almost 5 years old, but 5 years ago it was probably the most powerful PC you can build. That cost a bit over $5,000. It's an 8-core Xeon, I think it's pronounced, processor with 8 cores in it, and I have 128 gigabytes of RAM, and I have 2 NVIDIA Titan X graphics cards. That was I used to have it. Now I have a 3080 Ti graphics card in it. That I switched that out because games and stuff didn't like the Titan X that much. So I have that, and I have about 40 terabytes of hard drive in it, and yeah, stuff like that. So it's 20 terabyte in this one and 20 terabytes in my other machine. So that's about it, so to speak, when it comes to and it's still performing fairly good, but it's not super anymore, but it's okay. You can run the latest games adequately good, so to speak, but when it comes to doing real 3D rendering, then it's kind of lagging. I can't stream and render at the same time. So it's kind of, it's compared to what most people have, and also you don't need this fast of a computer. What we will deal with tonight, you can do on almost any laptop or any desktop. You don't need super fast. But if you want to work with images that are 20, 30, 40,000 pixels across, that's when you need enormous performance, when you have enormously big and complicated things that have tens of thousands of vector objects or have tens of thousands of pixels.
And I know we're getting basic here, but explain why is that? And is it more the GPU or the CPU that's more important?
It depends a little bit. Most software like GIMP and Krita and some of the free software, they are usually CPU bound, so to speak. But nowadays, GPU is starting to come in. So once you start having filter effects and stuff like that, Photoshop and Illustrator, the very latest versions are starting to use graphics cards, but primarily CPU, and you need an SSD, a fast, or a hell of a lot of RAM, so to speak. So if you don't have a lot of RAM, you need a fast hard drive. Otherwise, the software would just stall and nothing will happen for a while it switches, puts stuff away into RAM, so to speak. So figure out the biggest image your computer can handle. And if you have like a laptop or something with 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM, you can usually work up to like 5,000 or 6,000 pixels. That's usually not a problem. And then when you start stacking layer on top of each other, that means that the memory usage goes up exponentially. But let's say you have like 4 by 4,000 pixels and 10 layers. Almost any laptop can handle that easily. But once you start getting up to the really big pictures with 20,000 pixels and 25, 30 layers, that's when you need a lot of RAM, really. Yeah.
Okay, so RAM's important too for this.
Yep,
but this discussion tonight, we're going to keep it as that you can...
But that was the basic. So for the basic to know and to get started to make your maps, you almost any laptop today will maybe not
you
the
could
very
just have
cheapest.
A tablet.
Exactly.
I mean,
you can
get
draw
good
most
iPad.
of this on an iPad or something, but an iPad is like a decent laptop these days. So that works. So yeah.
You okay with taking quick questions? I mean, the questions are coming in already.
Please.
Fulton Knight asks, if I want to print a graphic map, it should be an SVG file that I can take to a FedEx type place.
An SVG file is vector only. So if we go back to this example, that means that you will not be able to, you will not get the terrain background. You will only get the borders and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so PDF is the best. If you want to print something, make sure you get it in PDF format, because PDF format supports both bitmap and vector, and PDF is also geared to be printed. And PDF keeps both the vector information and the bitmap information. So it's the best, usually the best format. And also, it also tells the printer exact size of things, because a lot of the bitmap formats, then all of a sudden the printer doesn't know if, because some images have square pixels, some of them have pixels in other formats. So there is a lot of stuff like that that can go haywire sometimes. And then you have to tell the printer, the person who prints it have to put the actual dimensions into the printer, but with PDF, it's in the file, so to speak. So PDFs are usually the safest bet for printing.
So best PDF by far is the one you want to take to if you're going to have someone print it somewhere.
Yeah,
okay.
PDF is usually the safest bet.
Okay.
Yeah. JPEGs and TIFFs and stuff
PDF
like
size
that.
probably affects image quality too, I'm assuming.
Yes,
right?
well, yeah, definitely. What you do in PDFs to make them smaller is that you compress the bitmap. You make it lower resolution, pixelier, and stuff like that. But that depends. That's why you can compress this a lot, because with the terrain, it doesn't matter. But the vector art is important. My previous version of the Atlas, I did the mistake of doing all the text and stuff as bitmap as well, and that didn't print that well. So I'm learning from my mistakes here. So yeah.
So thank you there, darling. Troy asks, do you consider what kind of work you are planning to do directly affects what kind of computer you want to build for mapping? Does software factor in as well? I'm assuming.
Oh yes. Yeah. You should. Yeah. And especially when you start thinking about 3D stuff, that's beyond the scope today, but that's when you really need to start thinking about your computer, because 3D requires enormous amount of computing power and usually enormous amount of RAM.
What's the RAM you have in your computer?
Oh, I have a 128 gigabytes of RAM in my computer. Yeah.
Alyssa, how much do you have in yours?
128.
Wow.
I rebuilt my machine only about a year ago. It cost me about $4,000.
Oh, okay.
And I had to do it because my previous machine, when I was drawing Teagle for Fog Gods, it was beginning to lag like pretty heavily. Right. And when I pulled in the text layers, and they were, they were still text. I hadn't rendered them as sort of bitmaps or anything. My computer seriously died. It just died. It choked. There were so many labels on it. So I decided, I vowed I had to, because they then approached me to do Necropolis for them, which was even bigger. I mean, it was like 90 inches in length. And so my machine wasn't going to handle it. So yeah, I had to upgrade. So consider it, honestly, I mean, if you're just drawing maps for home use, or like they're just sort of like the size of a page or something like that, you're going to be okay. Anna is doing maps that are impossibly large, like ridiculously large and detailed. And I occasionally draw a map that is 60 inches across or 90 inches across. And so I occasionally need that juice. I mean, I don't know how I did it, but my Chaosium one right now is 80 inches across or something ridiculous. And I need the juice. And even then, my computer lags a little bit.
And PDFs are usually terrible. They kill computers, basically.
Oh, PDFs, girl.
Because PDFs are meant to be printed primarily, or viewed on other devices. If you start opening them up for edit them in Adobe Acrobat or something, that is a performance killer right away. So
it's like InDesign. I was doing all my labeling in InDesign, and it's like, okay, so export as PDF. And then it was like, oh, but you want to look at the PDF as well? How about I choke your computer for 5 minutes? I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
But PDFs is still good for printing. So if you want to just view my big maps, like my big Greyhawk map, use the Easy Zoom or download the JPEG. It's usually much easier for the handle for the computer, and then use the PDF for printing needs. Yeah.
So Anna Treebor Mary L says hi.
Hello.
I'm sorry, Alyssa. Alyssa. I'm sorry. Is that Anna or Alyssa?
Trebor. We both Alyssa and
Oh,
me
it's Anna.
knows
It's Anna.
Trebor.
Yes. Okay.
We both
Okay.
know Trebor. Yep.
Beautiful. Very, very
Yep.
cool.
Mhm.
Good to see you on. So,
Yeah,
like,
good to have you.
when we get to a certain point, and I'm just want to, will you bring that up, and then I'm gonna shut up after this. I know everyone wants to hear you both talk.
No, it's
But-
No, we
great.
love
Yep.
you talking.
Oh my gosh! We'll see how much talking I do when I have nothing. Alyssa, next month when I have no idea what I'm doing, Call of Cthulhu with you. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. I'm looking forward to it. Oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. So let me go to my Ordo of Vulic folder here. Can you explain, Anna and Alyssa, what is actually going on with this map? Like, why does it work this way? All right, and maybe explain to them this zoomable shape of your map. How does this how does it get to this point? Like layman's terms. So now I can zoom way in and look at the level.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
how's that work?
It's simply because the image is almost 30,000 pixels across.
Okay, so
That's
just
why.
Which
because
is huge. I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, when Anna talks about in terms of pixels, that probably means nothing to anyone. But that's a very, very large map size. That's
Mhm.
a lot of pixels squeezed
Yep.
in there.
okay, so that's it. It's just because of the pixel
It's
rate.
just the sheer amount of
Okay,
pixels. Yeah.
it's not
Mhm.
anything you've done
Yeah.
special when you built
Yeah.
this at the end.
Yeah.
All right,
No,
that's what,
it's yeah.
I mean,
And-
think of it this way, guys. I mean, and this is going to be real layman's terms. When, people are talking about, well, I'm printing at 300 DPI, and that's a pretty good print quality.
Yeah.
When Anna says her map is 30,000 across, that's 100 inches.
Mhm.
So when you've got
Exactly.
it on your screen at 10 inches,
Yep.
you could zoom in,
Okay.
zoom in,
Okay.
zoom in.
Yeah.
You can
The-
really get into it.
All right.
The final that version of the map there is 116 inches wide and 110 inches high, and the new version that includes Hepona land is 140 inches high and 116 inches wide.
Which is not normal.
No, it's not. It's
Not many
beyond what
mappers
you can
work at
normally
that type
do.
of scale,
Yep,
folks. I
mhm.
mean, they really don't. But it'd be like taking the Tigo map that I did. I don't
Yeah.
like to harken back on it, but it was 60 inches across,
Yeah.
right? Something like that. If you print that 2 pages across, we're talking something in the region of 16, 17 inches print size.
Mhm.
The detail is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Of course, you
And-
could zoom in and zoom in because I drew it much larger.
But when we talk about pixel size in DPI, that means dot per inch, and you can also have PPI, meaning pixels per inch, and that is how
okay.
many pixels you have per inch. But back in printing times, they called it DPI because it was dot per inch. But now, since we are going more pixely on digital screens and stuff, we talk about PPI, pixels per inch. But when we talk about something that almost all gamers these days are using virtual tabletop tools like Fantasy Grounds, Roll20, etc. And they usually support images up to 4,000 or 5,000 pixels. If you go larger than that, you are on your own, then it might not work, and you get like problems when people have broadband that is internet connections aren't good, and you start getting graphic memory issues and stuff like that with your clients. So when you do maps, try to limit them to about 5,000 pixels. If you go above 5,000 pixels, you are out on slightly uncharted territory, because you might have someone who's running their game session on a tiny laptop or something similar, or they're using Wi-Fi with not particularly much bandwidth in it and stuff. So that's usually, and that means that you can do your you just start working on your map on almost any computer.
I'm glad to hear that it's there is no such thing as a zoomable category. It's just because the level of detail is so high.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I always
Yep.
confused with, because
Yep.
you're for the zoomable map. That's good to know. Good to know
Yep.
here.
Yep.
So awesome.
And then now we come to what tools to use. And
Yep.
the standard, if you do this professionally, the standard is Photoshop. That's where everything is measured against, so to speak. It's the grand old lady and the 800-pound gorilla, whatever you say in the business, Photoshop from Adobe. The problem with Photoshop, I think, is two. One, first of all, it costs money. a lot of money. If you $10 a month for Photoshop only, and if you want the whole creative suite, we're talking $50-$60 a month, and that's only needed if you work doing stuff like this. Otherwise you'd never need it. And the second problem with Photoshop is that it's so smock full of features that even if I've used it for 10 years professionally every day, and I still only know half of the tools of the stuff that is in there. But it is a cool tool that can do almost anything and then some. So it's cool. But thankfully there are a lot of good, great performing kind of free alternatives to it that are kind of, that can do the job as good, almost as good, and is sometimes even better than the venerable Photoshop, so to speak. And
right, so instead of Photoshop,
GIMP. GIMP, exactly. GIMP is I would say the best known and the biggest of the free alternative. It's an open source software. You can get it at gimp.org. And it doesn't cost a penny. There's no advertising or anything like that. You download it and you get the whole shebang. No questions asked. So
and it works in a very similar way.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's
very similar tools.
Yes, exactly. So one functions exactly the same way as the other one. The only thing is that the user interface looks slightly different. And sometimes you have to look in that menu, or in the other one, you have to look in another menu to find it. And they're assembled a little bit different, but the function is exactly the same. And then we have another open source tool that is coming with Storm and this community, and that's called Krita, and that means chalk. It's a Swedish open source thing. So it was invented by some Swedes 10, 12 years ago or something, and it's starting to get big. And I wouldn't say it is as powerful as Photoshop or even GIMP in some general areas, but it has some really cool effects. You have brush effects that pencil. So when you use the brush and paint, you can get all sorts of cool effects. And in that sense, it even rivals Photoshop. And in some ways, it's even better than Photoshop. And we can see if we can dig in and do when we get pencil effects a little bit here, and we can kind of talk
Amy
about
asked the name again of that.
Oh, Krita. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I put the link in. I can put the link in here. So hang on a second.
Also, we had a question earlier about what was the size of the Midgard map you did from Perry.
That one clocks in at roughly, I think about the combined version of Midgard and Southlands is roughly the same as the Greyhawk map. I think it's about 18,000 pixels wide and 30-something thousand pixel tall from north to south. So it's roughly the same size. It's not much difference. So it's one of these behemoths in hang on a second, I need to find the right
See, I know I'm curious, when you actually started providing this back to Kobold, did you give them a PDF, or did you have to give them like PNGs cut up, etc.?
They usually demand TIFF file, and that's another format that is basically like Photoshop's PSD. And so it's a bitmap format. So I layered that, and I also provide PDFs at the time, but they want to go for TIFF.
They were good with TIFFs. Okay, that's cool.
And TIFF is one of and now we're getting into slightly different, but just for mentioning for 1 minute, TIFF is a standardized format. PSD is the home, like native format for Photoshop. And most other tools today, they support Photoshop or PSD files. But TIFF is a standardized format that is built into almost any tool, so to speak. And see if I can just post. Here is the web page for
Krita.
No, that was Krita artist. Hang on a second here. So that was the forum.
We're gonna be throwing. They're gonna be throwing a lot of information to everyone tonight.
Yeah.
Just remember, this will be on Twitch for 90 days and YouTube late tonight, so you can always go back.
I need to get that.
But in YouTube and chat, you won't see those, so you want to get it off of Twitch for the 90 days you can if you got some links.
Here is the website where you download it. The other one was for the forums. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's the English, that they have some different versions but that's the English page. And that is it's a great, interesting, really cool tool. I started to play with it a bit, and it's kind of really cool. And it's open source, just like GIMP, so it doesn't cost anything.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep, it's open source, no ads, no nothing. So it's, and you can be part of the development team if you want to start developing it, if you have are a good coder. Yeah.
So T3H Blanksmith asks a question that we can answer right away about a fully blighted landscape, and I'm just going to go. I'm going to go right to the Greyhawk map that I have up right here, and we're going to go to lands that I use and look. So you're going. It looks like this is blighted as bad as much as you could say blighted.
Yeah.
So. By the way, we got a hype train up to through level 1, level 2. So I added a giveaway, a third giveaway from Troller Games, so we're up to 5. Thank you very much. So there. So what do you want to say about that? Adding a blighted landscape. You ever made a full?
That is a form of blend effect. So
It's
what
a
I
blend
did
effect,
was,
okay.
I copied that area and then I started to tweak the colors a little bit and painted over some black and some gray in a pattern, and then I just blended it in with certain amount of opacity, and then I thought it looked good. So that's an example. Take the existing image, make a copy of a layer above, and then start tweaking the colors of that layer, and then you just use the opacity, and then you use a mask and you paint it on and off, and that we can show that in a couple of minutes here. So
okay, great, awesome.
to do stuff.
Thank
like
you for
that.
that question.
So, yeah. Great question. Yeah.
Take it away as next step here. So where does
So
one?
Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, where should Perry start, who can barely draw a map with a crayon and a piece of paper?
I suggest download GIMP or Krita, and then you watch some YouTube videos on how to get started. Meaning,
how about watching some of mine? I've actually done some YouTube videos.
There you go.
And I've got some printed guides. For how to draw a map.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And then
go from there. Do step by step. Also, Jared Blando did a fantasy maps book, which you can actually find on Amazon, and he was a former guest of ours.
Yes, he was. So ignore. I got a relay set, and I didn't ignore that humble bundle that's out. There's Alyssa's Patreon, and we can link it. We can link it to Alyssa's. It's on YouTube, right, Alyssa?
Yep.
One more. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So every single month I release a how-to, and it's a written format and a video format.
Cool.
So and I have all of the videos on my YouTube channel, so that's always worth checking out.
Yeah,
nice.
There is one other hardware you should look into if you want to doodle using your computer. There is one type of hardware, and that's a digitizer, a pen tool or a tablet or whatever you call it. There's different versions of it, and what it is basically a tablet that looks like this. And then you have a digital pen, a digitizer, and then you draw on this just like a piece of paper, and you look at the screen, and that way. And you also need a doggy that wants treats all the time. So that's the other thing.
I think it's worth pointing out though too, Anna, that there's different types, right?
Exactly.
You've got the type which I think Anna is holding up there, which is kind of disconnected from the screen.
Yep.
So on that one, you're kind of drawing over here, and it's appearing over there.
Yep.
That takes a little bit of a learning curve, because it's not natural for the human brain to, have that disconnect between drawing and what's visually happening. The other is you get a touch monitor, and that could be a laptop. I bought one actually sub $1,000. It was a Microsoft Surface Pro or something like that, I think it's called. Obviously Apple do them all of the time. You've got a pen that looks like this. Apple Microsoft charged me $100 more for it, so screw them. But then for me, because I like drawing directly onto paper, I like that tactile almost result. For me, it comes a lot more naturally. Where my pen is touching is where the ink is gonna go. So for me, it was worth that extra little expense.
And those monitors, the Wacom is the Rolls-Royce version of the tool. There are Huion and several other brands that are cheaper.
Well, let's spell that out to them. Let's spell that out. Huion. Huion. They are basically Wacom knockoffs. They come out of China, but they're very, very good. Now, again, it's different types that you can get for it. You can get the ones that will respond to your touch, which is nice if you want to do pinch, zoom, and rotate and everything, which I like. They cost a lot more, even by Huion standards. Or if you just want it to respond to your pen, they could be pretty cheap, $400, $500, $600.
And these the cheapest ones of these are just over $100, about $100, the smallest one. So if you don't want to overinvest to begin with, get one of the smaller ones of these,
Wow,
because that way you can for about $100. So they usually go that you can find them sometimes for like $99 on Amazon and stuff.
I think Jay is holding one. Right
well,
now.
no, what I am holding, I got as my Christmas gift, and that is
Yep.
the highest end iPad that's out there. So the question is,
excuse me.
well, I'm sorry, my wife got it for me. So the question I have is, can I use what you're doing on Wacom's kind of on this?
Yeah,
I need a pen.
You can. You
100%.
Yeah, you need the pencil and stuff. And,
Okay.
100%.
All right,
and
great.
I have. And I have an example. Here's a Samsung tablet.
Okay, just wanted to.
The second last, and I have the screen, and it comes with a pen. And the only difference is that on tablets, the software is not as complex, so to speak.
Okay.
So it's simplified. All the versions of Photoshop or the other ones you have, SketchUp. There's several different versions, whether you use iOS or Android. Then the software is not anywhere near as complex, so to speak. You lose a lot of features, but all the basics you can definitely do it.
So I should run out. I should go and order the pen or pencil for this, and then I can really start. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I don't need a Wacom and this. I can use this. Okay. For my level, that's why I'm asking. All right.
Yep.
That sounds good.
And it's cheap because if you already have the tablet, you can just get the pencil for it.
Awesome. Well,
like
that's great. Thank you.
So.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
So that's the hardware, because to do this with a mouse, I don't think it works. It doesn't work for me, and I haven't heard anyone who can draw well using a mouse. But if a pen is the tool that we normally use to doodle with, so to speak. So that's the thing. And then there are two vector software that I want to talk to, because there are some people like the cleanliness and the kind of when you work with vector, and I'm going to mention them.
By the way, Anna, before you get into it, sorry to interrupt, but
no,
like I have never worked vector unless it's like intrinsic to a tool that I'm using. And a lot of my maps, people go, so you did this in vector, right? And I don't. And to your point that you're about to get into, I really should be.
Yeah,
I really should
and
be.
there is one reason I'm going to talk about why you need vector sometimes, and that is because when you want to label your maps, if you want to have beautiful text that is stretched out along lines like rivers and stuff like that, that is something that vector software is really good at doing. Photoshop can't wrap a text around the circle properly and stuff like that, and GIMP and Krita can't do that properly. I think Krita is the best one on doing stuff like that, but Illustrator and Inkscape is the other free or open source software when it comes to and there's also the Canadian Corel company. They have Corel Draw and Corel
Paint. Still going?
Yes, they're still going strong.
I did not know that. That's fantastic.
And then there's another one is called Affinity, and they have two tools as well that are priced about $50-$60, and it's not a subscription. And Corel is probably $100-$200 or something. So they are, so there are a lot of alternatives there. But when it comes to
and by the way, I would I mean, I am an Adobe bitch. I am. But I would strongly recommend that everyone just goes with these other options that Anna is talking about. Because I use Adobe because these are the tools I'm familiar with.
And I started out, my Greyhawk map was started out using Corel Draw and Corel Photo.
Remember that.
Yeah, and they are really great tools. It's not that. It's just that when you do professionally, then all of a sudden they start asking and demanding things in the Adobe format. But nowadays, Corel can do Adobe format. So can Affinity, and GIMP and Inkscape can also do Adobe format, at least fairly well. Not completely, but fairly well can open the software. And I'm going to drop the link to Inkscape here too, so we get the.
Just as a funny, while you're doing that, as a little sort of anecdotal sort of story, so to speak, I don't even know if I use the word anecdotal in the correct context there. But I actually have been working on the Chaosium Gaslight map, and I'm going to have to slap several thousand labels on this thing. It's a work in progress. Photoshop can't handle labels very well. It can handle a few, and then it gets to a certain point where it just dies. So it was actually recommended to me that I use InDesign for the labeling. I can import the Photoshop file as a background image, so to speak. and as a linked file, and then use InDesign to put all my labels on the top of it, and then export it into Anna's favorite format, a PDF. So it's actually been working out really, really well. It's like it plays to the strengths of each program.
Yeah, and I'm putting 2 links here. I'm putting a link to Corel and Affinity that is doing, and they have the Affinity Designer, the Photo, and Publisher. So these are and they are both cheaper than Adobe, but way more expensive than free, so to speak. And they're both great in their own rights. And they're a little bit different what you want. And Affinity are really cool looking and have some amazing combination of features that not even Adobe has. So there's some good and bad of all of them, so to speak. Inkscape is the perpetual beta software, it seems like. I don't know if they're hang on a second, I need to check what the version
So
Inkscape, yeah.
didn't Corel?
Inkscape came actually up last week, Anna, on the show that we were on, the Mapper's Delight.
Oh, cool.
I think there was one of those cartographers that uses Inkscape all of the time, and she's a professional cartographer.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's Inkscape and GIMP and Krita are definitely good enough for professional stuff. Definitely. Yep. The only thing that you might run in problem is that when you have to share files with others who are working in Adobe, that's where you
when you have a client that says, just send the PSD across, and it's like, if some of these, like Anna said, will do the export into those other formats, but you might start running into
and one of the problems you run into, there is a PSD is the standard format for Adobe Photoshop, but there's also a PSB with a Bravo at the end, and that means that is large format Photoshop.
Anna, what is the cutoff point for a PSD file?
30,000 pixels.
No, but file size. I think it's 6.
No,
6
no, it's pixels across, and
no,
2
it's
2
file
gigabytes.
size.
Yeah, oh yeah,
2 gig.
2 gig and or.
If you exceed 2 gig
pixels,
in Photoshop, it will go, I'm not saving this as a PSD, get out of here.
Exactly. And so you run into that a lot. And the problem is that the
Well, you do, Anna. You do.
And the problem is that PSB files can only be opened in Photoshop. I don't think any of the other ones can handle PSB
that's true.
files.
100%.
Yeah, so that is the problem. And the funny thing is that not even Adobe Illustrator that is done by Adobe can handle PSB files. So then you kind of screw that.
Which is kind of a bit nuts, because InDesign will bring in a PSB.
Yeah, but not Illustrator. And that is because Illustrator was actually made by a software company called Macromedia and bought by Adobe 20 years ago.
Holy heck, it was, wasn't it? Was that about 2000 or something?
Yeah, exactly. 2002 or 2003 or something like that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that's why the source code deep down in Illustrator still seems
I used to love Macromedia products.
Yep. So they bought Dreamweaver and Illustrator and stuff like that, Adobe back in the day. So that's when
Dreamweaver was awesome.
Yep. And they're still there. But funny thing is that the source code still seems to be not completely Adobe friendly, even after like 18 years or 20 years or something. So
I'm not sure any Adobe product is fully Adobe friendly.
No, it's kind of, but they're huge. So, so it's
so they could just ignore you.
So when it comes to, if you want to do a lot of cool text and text effects and stuff, that's when you should look into Inkscape or Illustrator. Because if you want to be a master of cool text and calligraphy and stuff like that, that's when you definitely should look into vector first. If doodling dungeons and stuff is your basic thing and you just want to label them, not to, if you don't put a super emphasis on labels, then you should stick to Bitmap and use GIMP or Photoshop or Krita or something like that. And even MS Paint, you can do some cool stuff in as well. But the problem with Paint is that it doesn't have layers, it doesn't have blend modes, it doesn't have masks. So you're basically just doodling and you have to undo and you doodle it over with the same color. But so that's,
is it worth mentioning Pro Fantasy's line at this point? Because aren't they true vector?
Yes, Pro Fantasy is a typical vector tool.
Except for the bitmaps that you insert on
effects.
there.
What they've done is that they put in bitmap effects, but it is vector based. So the symbols and stuff is vector with bitmap filtering and effects and stuff. But that is a dedicated specialized tool. For this, I wanted to, but we started with generic ones. I just want to doodle. I don't want to have something that is specialized for this. I want to doodle.
Well, and I think it's worth bringing
Yeah.
up, and we're going to talk about other tools and show you other tools.
Oh yeah, we need to dig into it.
We're going to go through them all. Anna owns most of them.
Well, most of them. Yeah.
But I think it was worth just bringing up Pro Fantasy from the point of view that it is vector based. It's basically CAD/CAM. But like Anna just said, it's worth a show on its own. It is a monster of a learning curve.
Yep.
Isn't it based on the original AutoCAD, basically?
No, it's not AutoCAD. It's based on another.
It is CAD. I mean,
it's CAD. It's another CAD. I forgot which CAD program, but it is a CAD. It's one of the competitors to AutoCAD that is based on. Yep.
Because it has that feeling. Okay.
Exactly, it has a feeling. So you have to be a master of using the mouse and then use the keyboard like 2-3 fingers and then press the right buttons and magic happens, so to speak. So it's kind of if you like it, it's fantastic. If you don't like that flow, then
it's a big learning curve.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep. So, but you can do some fantastic stuff with it.
It was cool back in the day. It was ahead of its time back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still cool, but it has its own approach, so to speak. And there are several different approaches to how to do stuff like this. So that was and now I'm just gonna take two more technical things, and this will take 2 minutes, and then we're done with all the basic tech stuff. And first of all is that there are 2 ways to handle color in images. And one is RGB, red, green, and blue. That's for showing, if you want to have your image shown on screens and on the web and stuff, RGB is your best buddy. And you don't need to worry. And most software like Photoshop and GIMP and stuff, they work in RGB. You don't have to worry about it. And that's it. But if you want to print your image, meaning send them to a professional printer, then you want to worry about the CMYK, and that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and whatever, something. It's the 4 colors you use in offset printing. And that's another way of generating color. One is additive and the other one is subtractive or something, but it's the way of handling colors in offset printing in the graphical printing world. And the thing is that if you're working and want it properly professionally printed, that's when you use CMYK. So if you doodle your maps at home, just use RGB, don't worry about it. And that's it. So I'm just mentioning that there is an alternative. If you want to go into printing your map in some distant future, you need to worry about the conversion. And Photoshop and GIMP and stuff, they can convert it from one to the other. The problem is that once you converted it to CMYK, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can't do with the image afterwards. And so it's a one-way street, so to speak. You lose a lot of effects and blend effects and layer effects and filters and stuff like that. It doesn't work properly in CMYK. It only works in RGB because RGB is the normal thing you're working with. So it's that's it, so to speak. And then
I think it's fair to say though, as an RGB pleb that I am, and I've certainly worked in CMYK, but I think it's fair to say, I mean, in the X amount of years that I've been in this business, I've had a lot of stuff printed. I mean, I have. I have never had to worry about it on the level you are. No, so I think would it be fair to say that on an elevated level, if you're going into some kind of nuanced print where color absolutely freaking matters, you should be thinking about CMYK.
Yeah, and the reason I want to mention it is actually the other way around. Someone is giving you a file, and all of a sudden, half the menus in Photoshop and GIMP are grayed out, and you can't do anything. All of a sudden, say, yeah, I can't change it to grayscale, or I can't tweak the colors, or I can't make it darker. Look into the mode. It's called on image, it's actually called the mode, and the mode can change between, and there are some other ones. It's lab color, multi-channel, but skip them. So then you have to make sure that in Photoshop or GIMP that the mode is set to RGB and not CMYK, because when you set it to CMYK, half of your features disappear. That's why I want to mention it, because all of a sudden someone is sending you a picture and you can't do anything with it. It's like there's some bug in your software all of a sudden. That is because your image might have flipped over to CMYK, or it might be in CMYK, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything with it, or very little with it. And then the other bit is the bits per pixel, so to speak. And there is 18 bits, 16 bits, and 32 bits. And that's simply how many colors can one pixel have. In 8 bits, I think it can have like 4 million or something like that. And in 16 bits, it can have 16 billion or something. And 32 bits, it's like the universe number of colors. It's ridiculous. And for normal use, you never need to worry about more than 8 bits. And 16 bits is needed, and 32 is only when you work with things like height maps and stuff in 3D. That's when you need the 18 and the 32 bits.
So you need it.
Yeah, sometimes I need it, yes. Yeah. And the problem is that the size goes up exponentially. So it's like 4 times bigger in double in 16, 4 times bigger in 32-bit. And
so
that means,
I'm 8-bit and you're 32-bit.
So
I mean, that's
I try
a bit
to
of a
avoid
weird
it,
flex, but okay.
Yeah. So height maps and some stuff. And also when you start working with game engines and that type of graphics, because then all of a sudden they might use it for splat maps and height maps and stuff like that. That's where Bitmap. But it's the same thing. Just make sure you're using 8 bits. If your files seems to explode in size, go in and check that you're using 8 bits, because that's good enough for every normal use. So yeah.
Two
so
questions.
That was it. Yep.
Knight of the Citadel. Can you use a higher level PX background and smaller pixels with layers to save file size? Or is it better to do low PX background and higher small details and layers? Isn't that what Photoshop's doing when it says what you want to save it as?
Yeah, what you normally should do, I think, is that if you can work in a higher resolution, do it, and then reduce the end result and shrink it down. Because it's much worse if you work with it and right. Then all of it. Let's say someone said that my goal is to have a 36 by 24 inch poster map of something. You say, what I doodle here for my kingdom or my mega dungeon map is something I want to go to a print shop and print at 24 by 36. What you do is that you open GIMP or Photoshop and you put in 24 by 36 inches or whatever the total, the biggest size you want to use the map at or print it, and then make sure you use 300 dpi, and then you start working in it. And then if the files become like 8 gigabytes in size and you realize, no, I want to use it on the web, or I want to bring it into a VTT, what you do is that then you can reduce it to 150 dpi and it will still look good.
Can I expound upon that point though? If you're drawing 8.5 by 11, and let's say for the sake of argument, that's your final print size,
like a letter size.
There's our standard USA sort of page, right?
Yep.
I personally double it.
Yeah.
So I personally double the size. I still draw at 300 dpi, sometimes 450, sometimes 600. But I will double the size that I'm drawing at, because you can actually go a little bit larger if you want to hit a small poster.
Yep.
And you can definitely go smaller, and the crispness is going to be there. The detail is still going to be there. If you do it too big and bring it small, a lot of the details will just get lost. Yeah. So as a rule of thumb, I double what the client asks for. I do draw it at least 300 dpi. And I never reduce that original file size ever. You can export it. If I want to work at a smaller size, sure, I'll make a copy of it. But I always work off that original large file size that that I can handle.
Yeah, because Bitmap has the problem. If you make the image bigger, it looks crappy. You can make it smaller and it looks good. And then once you squeeze it too small, you start losing details, but the quality still looks good. If you blow it up, it just looks blurry and terrible. So you can't zoom in and enlarge it. So always think about what the biggest version of it you will ever use, and then work on that scale. And then you make smaller version of it for put into Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or something like that. So it's the end goal that you want to use the map you're making, so to speak, the image you're working on.
And I think it's a good golden rule, by the way, particularly in the sort of the bitmap universe. It's like, I hate to keep harping on it because I sound like one of those people, but the Chaosium map, which maybe I'll even get to show you all later on.
Yeah.
You know, I think they asked for some crazy size, like they wanted it to be, I don't know, 17 inches across or something like that. So I doubled it. I'm working at 34 inches.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's my golden rule every time. And you know what? They came back and said, yeah, you know what? We're probably going to do posters. So now I'm good.
Wow.
My 34 inches is fine. If I'd drawn it at 17, no way it could have blown up. So draw it bigger than you need it is my golden rule. And because like Anna said, you can always bring it down. You can't take it up. It will go up a little bit. It will. But you are losing information the bigger you go.
That's the beauty of vector. Meaning vector, you can resize to whatever size you want afterwards. You don't have to worry about it. You just make the thing, and then you can blow it up to the size of a wall in the house or something like that. You don't have to worry about
lying, by the way. That's exactly how vectors work.
Yep.
So Fulton Knight asks an issue. I've seen PDF map as PostScript. When you go to print it won't print. What's that?
PostScript is a language that was a format that was made for laser printers originally back in the day. Yes, and I think if that was Adobe's idea, but someone might know better than me on that. But it was something that was made for laser printers back in the early 80s, I think, or something like that.
So it's a dead format.
Not dead, but it's not used that much anymore. So PDF is kind of taken over. But PostScript is a language that printers speak, so to speak. So yeah.
Okay. Very good to know that. So
yep.
You know, I think we should do a show at some point in the future where it's Stump Anna. And you can just ask her any question.
Yeah.
And we'll just see if someone can come up with a question she doesn't know. I'm pretty sure she'll get through 2 hours and answer everything.
Yeah. But now we have awesome one more technical bit to dig into, and that's file formats. So we need to take 2 minutes to talk about file formats, because it's not that many, but there are a couple you need to understand when you're working with graphics like that.
And I think to preface this, would this be fair to say, like after your drawing, you're about to save it?
Yes, exactly.
Right. And maybe even save it as and give it to someone. So with that said, tell us about file formats.
Yeah, because there are certain formats that are good for certain things, and they have drawbacks, and certain things work in certain software and to do certain things. So the basic, if you take a basic camera, if you take a picture with your cell phone, that is a digital image. And the most common format for digital image is JPEG and JPG, and that is this kind of almost become the ubiquitous standard format. And it's great because it compresses really well. It's small, and the file size is not that big, and it can be used anywhere and opened in any tool, Photoshop, GIMP, Krita, whatever you want. It can all open JPEGs and use it, so to speak. The problem with JPEG is that if you want to manipulate it afterwards, you compress a lot of detail and stuff. So there's a lot of effects, you can't really work with it. So it's the end use. Once you fiddle around with the image and you want to export a small image you can use on the web, you can send to people in emails, you can post it in Discord, it's great to use in Fantasy Grounds and Roll20 and stuff. JPEG is your format. It's great for that. And then there is a modern competitor to JPEG called PNG. And PNGs are larger files, but they retain quality better than JPEG, and they have one other advantage. They can they have transparency.
I know that now. With all the Portrait Workshop stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So Portrait Work, like tokens. If you want to have tokens for a virtual tabletop, PNG is your thing, so to speak. So, but PNG is a little bit more hefty. It takes a lot more computing power to calculate it. If you try to save something as a JPEG and compare to save it as a PNG, it takes 5 times longer to save it as a PNG. And that's because it uses a much smarter algorithm for compressing it. But the problem is that keeps much more of the information, but it much more compute intensive to save it, so it takes much longer, so to speak. But both of them can do similar cool things, so to speak. But PNG has full transparency, JPEG doesn't have. So if you have like a transparent background, it will be white or whatever color you set it to.
I tend to save as PNG if I'm saving to give to someone, and I obviously I'm only saving as some kind of net result.
Yeah.
I tend to do PNGs because I find the quality is better, and of course you got the transparency, but the file
Yeah.
sizes are larger.
Yeah.
I don't tend to do JPEGs very much because JPEGs almost feel like it's one step beyond final.
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
I've posted it to Facebook at this point,
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
converted
Yeah.
it to
Mhm.
JPEG.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that back.
No.
Whatever's
No.
been lost is not coming back.
Exactly.
It's done.
That's the problem with, but it's good because you can compress it down to real small
Oh,
size
it's super
and it
small.
still looks
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's great for virtual tabletops. The tokens PNG and the maps JPEG when it comes to that. So it's great that way. The problem if you go to a printer, there is a lot of information missing. So then JPEG might not be the best.
Don't give a printer a JPEG. Folks.
Exactly. Don't do it. But for
do it.
VTT stuff, showing on the web and user forums and Facebook and stuff, JPEG is your buddy. That's the format. And then we have the other one I just mentioned once before. I'm going to mention it again. Is Tiff. That's a full-featured standardized format that has layering, all the bells and whistles, just like PSD. That is the standard Photoshop format. And PNG and JPEG we talked about. They are the final format. They don't have layering, don't have layer effects. They get also so PSDs. And TIFFs are the workhorse. When you're working on an image, you can save them either as a PSD or as a TIFF. PSDs are, if you work in Adobe Photoshop, PSD is great. GIMP usually have no problem with PSDs. The same thing with Krita and the other ones. They can have a problem. TIFF is like a standardized PSD file that has the same limitations, 2 gigabytes in size and stuff.
Didn't
and they are basic.
Corel start the TIFF out years and years ago? I thought that's the first time I saw it. Okay.
Yeah, TIFF is a standardized format. So if you don't know what
right.
yeah, if you want to send something you worked on that is halfway done, and you have no clue what the other person's tool is, what they're using, send it as a TIFF. Because it's a standardized format, can be opened by any software tool basically. So that is it. And then you have PSD and PSB. They are Photoshop only, especially the PSB is Photoshop only. And the other one is Photoshop native, but can still be used by most other tools. Not all, but most.
And these are working files at this
exactly.
point.
It's not the end use
format. You're not doing a TIFF, a PSD, or a PSB and putting it onto the web.
Exactly. No, it's the one you work with it. And
it's a working file, moving it even between different teams, you know?
Yep. So as long as you're working with it, you keep it PSB, TIFF, or PSD. And then there is another one to mention here, and that is XCF, because that's GIMP's native format. So it's the same as a PSD, but it's for GIMP only. So GIMP uses XCF. It's not used anywhere else, and I think Photoshop can import it, but that's about it, so to speak. But if you work in GIMP, you can either work in PSD, TIFF, or XCF. So I'm only mentioning it because probably a lot of people want to use GIMP. And then there's 2 other formats I'm going to mention real briefly. One is AI, that is Illustrator's native vector format that can also include Bitmap as well. And then is one other, SVG, the standardized vector graphics. And that's vector files that Inkscape use SVG, and web browsers and all sorts of tools on the web or whatever, they also use SVG. That's a standard. It's a bit like JPEG, but for vector formats, so to speak, or PNG, but for vector files. So you can open them in your browser and stuff like that. A lot of the items you see on the web are SVG graphics, vector stuff. So
and I think it's worth adding here too that SVG is good if you are putting, and I don't mean in the context of maps typically, but let's say you've created a nice title or logo or something, you can actually nowadays have it as an SVG. The browser will render it. And during responsive behaviors of a web page, you're going from mobile and different devices, that SVG will scale beautifully with it, you know, so that's a great use for SVG.
So it's one that's basically all if you know a little bit about what these formats are and when you can use them or not, then that's all you need to know, so to speak. And then PDF, and PDF is for printing only basically, and there are a lot of bells and whistles. And
I want to ask you about that. Okay, so here's a real situation that happened. I apparently love talking with my hands.
That's okay.
So I actually nowadays I got some advice for taking one of my maps, 1,000 labels, different programs, exporting as a PDF, etc. And the person who was giving me this advice was basically, yeah, anyone will take this. Anyone, don't worry about it. And I'm like, most of my clients won't take a PDF. I can't give a PDF to Frog God Games and say, here, put that in your layout. They don't work that way. Most people that I've worked with, they want some kind of PNG or something like that back because they're putting it into other programs and laying out with that. What's been your experience, Anna, with a PDF file and end clients? Not necessarily straight to printer here. End clients, will they accept the PDF?
There's only 2 programs that can import a PDF and do something useful with them, and that's Illustrator and InDesign. So you can because PDF is like that. The reason that PDF was invented was that people realized that some computers were using Linux, some were using Windows, some were using some Mac and whatever, and things look different depending on what fonts you have installed, what operating system, etc., etc. So PDF was a way to standardize graphics so it will look and print the same regardless of what hardware you had. And so it's a bit of a mishmash that can do all sorts of things mixed up in one file format. And it's Adobe that invented the PDF format. And so they basically have the Illustrator and InDesign are the only tools that can really import a PDF and handle it. And then you have other problems with PDF, because if you buy a rule book on DriveThruRPG, for instance, as a PDF or somewhere else, then you get a locked, secured PDF. You can view it, you can print it, but you can't edit it. And that means that you can't open it anywhere. So PDFs is basically, it's like JPEGs and PNGs. It's the end format. You can export it out as a PDF. It's not for working with it. But some people seem to think that you can work with it. And to some degree, yes, you can. But then the file PDFs need to be structured specifically to do that with. And
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it here shortly.
That is so deep. So
I'm going to give a client a PDF,
and they usually will swear at you and send it back again.
Yeah, I'm going to try it because I'm pretty sure it's a no-go. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and Gary, exactly. I'm forcing people to buy more hardware.
So that they can do more. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense.
If you have less RAM than Anna, buy more RAM, link below with her affiliate code.
Yeah, exactly. We should have affiliate for Newegg and Amazon and whatnot. So yeah, but one benefit of PDFs is that they are layered, just like PSD and TIFFs. They can have layers. So that's one of the. But now we've done all the. It took 1 hour to get through all the nasty getting started.
That's all right.
Get into some sexy stuff. Get into some sexy stuff because PS Menja is asking about
Puffet
layers.
Smedger.
Okay.
That's Gary Julian, Puffet Smedger.
Perfect.
Smedger. Okay.
Yeah.
Asking about layers.
Yeah.
He's like, layer me, baby. Layer.
Alyssa, if you look at this book here, Living Ground Gazetteer, Gary Julian, that's Puffet Smedger right there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, he's you know, we don't. He's
well,
should we do
this
some
superstar that's in the chat wants to be buried in layers.
bury him.
Yeah.
Bury him.
So should Alyssa, should you or me do some examples?
Why don't you do some?
Okay. Yep.
And then I'll show how I use layers, because my way of using layers is a barbaric pleb-like approach.
Okay. So let me go in here. Yep. And here we go. So now I'm going to show you. So this is a spoiler for my players, so don't look at this too much, because this is the Dragonhide caves from my Shieldlands campaign. And this image is, for example, is 10,000 pixels across. So it's a big cave, and we can zoom in. I'm not going to show other areas. I'm going to show the areas we actually been in the campaign. So here
I heard about this. This is so crazy.
Yeah. So this is this is okay. And you look on the right here, you have all the different layers. So if I zoom out again a bit here, we can kind of
Anna, explain. I don't want to be condescending to our audience here, like at all, but maybe just stepping it back a little bit, explain the purpose of layers just in a real basic way
Yep.
The concept of layering.
Yeah.
Layering.
If you
What is a
seen how
layer?
the-
A layer
yeah.
is layering. But
Yeah,
you know,
you can have different types of graphics. So if I have a map like look like this that I've done in a previous projects, and now I want to take and put a cave system in here. I can have that on a separate layer, so I can turn it on and off.
That's awesome.
And I can kind of paint over and stuff. But let's do like we do in a cooking show. We start from the basic here. So let's bring in some dungeon floor. I have a one white background layer here. So let's bring in a dungeon floor here.
Are you in Photoshop now, Anna?
Yep, I'm in
Okay,
Photoshop,
just
but
wanna
this
tell 'em what
works
program you're using.
exactly the same in GIMP and
Okay.
Basic and any of the other tools. So
Do layers work in rasters and vectors? Gary asks.
yes, they work in both, but
go.
they usually called they work the same. So,
Okay.
so what I'm going to do, I'm basically going to reduce the size of the image to the I'm going to crop it down here. So here we go. So now we have two layers, so I can turn on and off the layers. So we have the dungeon floor, and then we have the white background. You don't really need the white background, so I'm going to delete that. We don't need that, so we can keep the dungeon floor as a thing. Now what I can do is that in order to make a dungeon, I want to have like small separate rooms and stuff. But first, let's paint in some stuff. So I want to not paint on the floor itself, so I create a new layer, and I call it sketch.
by the way, you don't want to paint on that floor, because then you're literally eradicating the floor. You're replacing the floor with the new thing that you're drawing.
Yeah, and I don't want that.
Creating a new layer
Yep.
that is going to sit on top of it, like Billion Babble just said in the chat.
Yeah.
It's going to sit on top of it like a tracing layer. Now you'd leave the original completely untouched.
And I have like millions of brushes, so I take my dungeon here, and I have let's see, we can sketch using a brown. So now what I can do in here, I can simply say, well, there's a table here, so I put like a table here. So I sketch in the table, and that looks absolutely terrible. So let me simply doodle away a little bit here. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. So we put a little table, and let me just sketch in here like that. And I can make the pen a little bit bigger here. So we just put a brown little table, and I'm just going to doodle it in and say that it doesn't look much like a table, but I'm going to make a small one, and I'm going to switch and put a little bit of yeah, that's very basic. Here we have a table, and it doesn't look much yet, but what I can do, I can put effects on the layer. So I can simply have a layer, and I drop a shadow, and I say that the
shadowing's awesome.
Yeah, so I can simply drop a little shadow here, and the cool thing with the shadow is that it's not per object, it's per the whole layer. So now I can just go in and say, well, I have a cupboard, or I have some chairs here, so I just paint some little chairs and the little back there and put it in. I make a little footstool here, and you see they get the shadow automatically, so to speak. Or we might have a long bench on this side here, so and then I put the back part here.
Shadowing's cool. So
yeah, so it works automatically, and then I can make
glow, shadow, all that stuff
and
is
I
in
put
that one.
put some black stuff
Something
here.
I actually know.
Yeah, and I kind of add some little bit of doodling here, and this is my very quick doodling of stuff, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And that is some furniture in here, but now I want to make the rooms and stuff in the thing is. So what I do is that I create a new layer, and then I fill that with black like this. And now what I can do is that I can put a mask on here. So I simply put a
what's a mask, Anna?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm going to show what a mask is, because that's the next thing after layers.
You're getting advanced. You're getting advanced. You already just started talking about layers, and you're already into masks.
Yeah. So hang on a second. We should.
Anna's heraldry is filled with masks, by the way, everyone. All the new heraldry.
Yeah, it's masks everywhere. Yep. So here we have masks, and what I can do is that I can paint out, so we can have like a room for paint off the mask here. So now I can paint in with black, and that means that now I can paint away. The layer is black, and then I have a mask here, and the mask is white, meaning the black color is visible. If I paint with black on the mask, that means that I make the layer invisible. And that way I can now create a dungeon room here. So I simply say, here we have a dungeon room, and here we have a door out. Like,
So
that.
It's in reverse, Gary.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the reverse. I could have done it the other way around, but I want to cover most of it. And what I do is that now I can go in and make this look a little bit better. So I make a drop shadow, and all of a sudden the walls, and I can even have, I can have a stroke and say that I have an inside stroke, and I can say that that one is dark brownish kind of thing like that. And I can just opacity, I can darken it a bit like that. So now I have like some almost look a bit earthy kind of thing, and I have a shade inside. And the cool thing is now I can just doodle away here and simply paint the dungeon.
But Anna,
yep.
So one of the main points of a mask is like, if you make a mistake, you can go back, no problem, right?
Yeah.
So show us, let's say you went too far to the right.
Yeah. So if I doodle like this, and I say, I can just paint in and out whatever I want. I want to have like a little.
The original image, folks, underneath is still intact.
Yeah.
Anna's hiding, showing, like William Babel said, just like a green screen.
Yeah. And
that's
the
what she's
sketch is
doing
on
here.
a separate layer. So I have the sketch on it, and this I can call this layer walls. Not with the C, but with the S, so to speak. And then I can lock these.
And sure, all history, all of these programs have a history. You could do a take back. You know,
you can undo, and
they all have a history length, or maybe even between sessions. You know, now you say that history's gone. Now that's gone. So a mask allows you to hide or show content, and at any point change your mind.
Yep.
So here's an example, Gary. So when Anna, you know, we have a different style of shield, and Anna's putting that new shield style on. We can paint in the original colors and actually go over it, and it only holds the mask of the outline of the shield. All right, so it's kind of really a neat concept to show me on that.
I can show a shield here. We can look.
While you're doing that, so this is what Anna taught me. So I take my Photoshop. I'm sorry, my Portrait Workshop images, and then I go into Photoshop and I put in the symbols, the heraldry, and then I put that shadowing and that stroke and all to give it depth of that little of the logo, instead of it just being flat. And Anna taught me how to do that there with that. So that's something you can add to it, just as an example of me being very basic. Yeah. So here you go.
We have a
shield.
So here we have the final shield, so to speak. And now you can take away. We have a layer here
so
that has the colors. And then I have this layer that is the colors of the instrument, and then I have the other that sets the texture. So and then you simply start blending. That was the color, and you can start blending that one, and then you have
show them out of an overlay what it looks like without the overlay of the right.
And that was the next concept I was going to come to. And,
okay, I'm sorry.
That is the blend mode. You can blend things in different. So we have, for instance, we can do this, and that is the structure that makes it look old and rusty. And that is using normal blend mode will make it look like this, because this image is just a texture. And let me zoom in here a bit here. That looks like this. I used a filter to create this kind of weird pattern from the harp image. And then what I do, you can with a layer, you can have blend modes. That depends on how it will affect the pixels from under it, so to speak. And you can also have opacity. So I can simply change the opacity, so I can let the colors under it shine through a little bit up and down, so to speak. But the cool thing is you can choose blend mode here. So you can have dissolve, that only change things if I do this. You get like a pixelated kind of prickly version of it. And then you can go into darken. Then you see you get some effect here, and then I can switch to multiply, and I can switch to color burn. You see the difference depending on what color is under it.
You can do
And
a
then
lot of
you
different things with it.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
linear burn, darker color, lighten, and screen.
And it's just that layer
Yep,
right now.
exactly. Just that color
So-
layer or that texture on top of the color, and lighter color you have, and then overlay. And overlay is really cool. If you just want texture on top of color, overlay is the one you should use, so to speak. You can put texture on top of color and for shading and a whole bunch of stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of other weird ones. Soft light, almost the same. Hard light gets very harsh. Vivid light is kind of cool because you get like
Someone nix
golden,
that, please.
metally, and linear lights, and yeah, you have, and then you get into these weird ones: hard mix, difference, exclusion, subtract, divide, hue, saturation, and color and luminosity. So there's like a whole, and so when you do things and you want to have like cool effects, like metal things, that shiny things, and things that are see-through like water and stuff, layer effects, the blend modes is the way to go, and they are fantastic fun.
I use multiply a lot. That's one of my
exactly.
favorites.
Multiply is perfect for vegetation. You want real musty greens and kind of cool effects like that. And nature, if you want to have texture that looks natural and interesting, that the blend mode is the feature. So blend mode, opacity, masking, that's what you can work with. And layer styles. Layer styles are things like stroke, glows, drop shadow and stuff. And the layer styles depend a little bit on the program. Photoshop has tons and tons of layer effects and layer styles that GIMP doesn't have as many, so to speak. So that's why you get the worth of the money, so to speak. But you get almost all you need to make beautiful maps are available in GIMP and Krita as well. So that's what you can do with layers.
So Gary, I know nothing about this, but Anna was able to teach me, for heraldry especially. I mean, and look, here's the Winchester shield. I was able to build that myself.
Yep.
Okay.
And
I don't know what I'm doing.
No, but the cool thing is that once you do, you save the PSD. So if I've done this Dungeon map, and you saw, it took me 2 minutes to do that. And imagine what you can do if you keep doing this for 10 hours. You can do a masterpiece like Alyssa is doing. It's kind of, you work a few hours, and what you do is that you save these things with the layer styles and stuff, and then you open the file with the layers, just delete the content and start working again. That way you don't have to invent the wheel from scratch in every map. Meaning that the heraldry I'm developing for Greyhawk, I keep that file and just import the new graphics on top of the layers, and I don't have to recalculate things. The masks are there, the textures are there, the blend modes are there. I just doodle and it looks perfect right away, so to speak.
General question from Gary. For let's just say for their own use, layers to build a town, 20?
It depends.
You don't want to go that.
It depends on what you do.
Not professionally done.
Yeah, exactly. You see, I have a Dungeon map here with 3 layers.
Right.
I have the texture at the bottom. I have one for sketching all the items and stuff in there, and I have one for the roofs. That's it. You don't need more than 3 layers for a perfectly functioning Dungeon map that you can use in Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or something.
But it's good to put the trees on their own layer, the water on its own layer.
Exactly. You could,
basic categories.
Exactly.
Right.
For instance, I want to have blood splattered all over under the tables here. What I do is that I take this one, and then I go in here, and then I create a dark red layer here, and then I fill it with dark red like that, and then I hold down Alt key and I press the mask, and then I simply create a brush. And that's the other feature. In brushes, you can have all sorts of weird effects. So I can do this, for instance, and then I'll
just
make it smaller.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And then I simply go in here, and now I can start splattering blood under the chairs. And we said there was a bloody murder going on here, or some battle inside the door. There was some unfortunate gnoll or kobold or something that was standing in there, and meaning you can add effects, and that's what you use layers for, because I want to reuse the dungeon, but I don't want to have all the blood splattered all over before the battle. So that way I have it on a separate layer.
Snap easy.
Yeah, and you can put things under things that you already drawn. If I had the furniture directly on it, I couldn't put an effect under it, so to speak. So, and that goes with the same thing. If you have like a city map, you want to have the buildings on a separate layer and the terrain under it, and you simply want the roads to be on a separate layer above the grass and the ground under it. So you can draw and remove roads if you feel like, oh, that shouldn't be a road there. I want trees or something instead. So
I just opened up one of my city maps.
Yeah.
Here we go. I switch screens.
And
yep.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Hello,
I got you
everyone.
on the bigger screen. You're on the big screen now.
Well, so I guess I'll open this thing up.
Yeah.
Because it's actually got less than 10 layers on it.
Oh, okay, cool.
So let me kind of just turn off my filter here.
Adjust this slightly. Oh, you relocated, so now I got to flip you back here to the other screen. No problem.
that was not my work. I did not do. Oh no, I did do that. I was a bad person.
That's no problem.
All right. So okay. So I could walk you guys through a couple of mind maps. This is called Light Harbor. I actually didn't have this open originally, but the question about how many layers have you got going on actually made me curious.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a fully colored inked version of one of my maps right here. And I mean, you can see on the left side, I mean, I've got I always put a white background behind my maps. It's like drawing on paper, right? And then what I always have an ink layer. So this is my ink layer right there. That's literally my, I love this effect, turning off my ink, right? But I've got all of my colors, and I'm going to get to that in a second. If I just turn all of these off, this is me. This is me, ink on paper. Yep. Right here, right? And then what I've got going on, I will sometimes create separate layers for maybe an intricate building where I want to build up some things. Right here, I've got some textures going on in the water, okay? And I want these to be under the water. This is like seaweed. And layers are building on top of each other. It's a little bit like that technique where you paint on resin and pour a layer, paint on resin, pour a layer. Yep. And then I put my color layer on the top of it.
And look at that. That's when you need to use a different blend mode. You can't use normal.
I've got multiply now. Exactly. I've got multiply on this one. Yep. And then I've got my water highlights that I put on top of that.
That's awesome.
Then I've got my shadows. Now, my shadows are actually underneath my coloring. My coloring, in all fairness, there's quite a few layers here because my coloring technique is actually to layer my colors one on top of the other. If I just turn that on, it kind of ends up looking like this. But that's only because I'm going from the ground up. I've got my flagstones in here. I've got the color underneath the flagstones. I've got my, and I've got my highlights, which are on top of things. I've got my high shadows, my low shadows, my color of the building shadows. So I've got all sorts of different sort of coloring techniques just basically on top of each other. Then I've got my ink, and that's what you can see here. My style is a very hard.
I love how soft it is in colors. A lot of colors, but soft. It's awesome.
Yep. Yep.
And that's the approach I like taking with my coloring is I kind of just layer them up almost like a spray pattern. And so it starts getting, it's a very soft coloring style. And then things like smoke. So I've got smoke in here. I think I've got like smoke over here because I had some like work areas. So that's the top layer, right? Yep. I've got smoke
there you
on the top there.
Yep.
And I always then end up having a group, which is my compass rose right here, which is this guy in this particular instance.
Yeah.
And I've got a group of multiple layers.
Except you can group layers together, which is awesome when you can just turn it on.
And that means I could just turn it on and off like this, right?
Or move them all in one go too.
And move it around. And you'll notice, I mean, we've got our text layers in here, which Anna was talking about before.
Yep.
And I've got all sorts of multiple layers that I don't want to actually show. That's reusing assets from previous maps. And I just turn them off. So, yeah, I mean, the net result, honestly, with this one, I mean, probably there are quite a lot of layers. If you're including individual text layers and that type of thing, sure, there's a lot. But at its core, like this, coloring, smoke, and everything, it's less than 20. 10 to 20 tops. If you're going over that, you've got too many.
And also layering is also great if you want to test something out. You make a new layer, you doodle on it a little bit and tweak it back and forth and so on, because that way you don't clutter up the previous stuff and you can just delete it in one click. If
100%. No, and I do
Yep.
that a lot. Shall I show, which one shall I do? Shall I do the Garicon or the Gaslight?
whatever you feel like
Whichever
showing.
one
They're both
you
fantastic.
feel
Let's do Garicon.
Yeah.
So we will do the Gaslight. So just to show layers built up. So here's my ink work. Okay. By the way, Anna, this is a smart object, multiple layers.
Yep.
Turned into a smart object.
Yep.
A smart object, everyone. If I click this right now and I'm actually going to convert it back to layers. So this right here was actually a whole bunch of layers.
Yeah. And smart object is one of these fantastic inventions if you use Adobe's tools, because what you can do is that you can save a smart object, like a bunch of furniture in a dungeon, like I did. You make a smart object of it and you save it on the side, and you just drag it in, and it comes with layer effects, blending, and everything is already, it's like a mini template. You can just pull into whatever project you're doing. It's fantastic. But the problem
and it helps performance too.
Yeah,
So I tend to, when I've got a good set, you'll see I've got a set here, I've got a set here. I've got all of my coloring layers right here as one smart object. It kind of just puts them to one side and references them.
The problem is that they only work within the Adobe sphere of stuff.
Which is me. I'm an Adobe bitch. I accept it. I accept my
I'm
face
just exampling.
in
So they will not they will look good in GIMP if you open them PSD, or decent most of the times, but they will not, you don't get usability of them in GIMP or Krita. So that's one of the
unless you're an Adobe bitch like me.
Yeah.
I want to just pull everyone's attention to, this is just ink work, guys. I mean, there's nothing special going on here. This is just ink on paper type of approach.
Yeah.
Everyone can see that. But I start layering stuff up. In my particular instance, I wanted to have a background. So I painted this background. Now this is going to start looking terrible, right? So, but you'll notice I've got my background behind my ink. So I've got that. And then I actually, but it's too much color. I'm going to come back to that, okay, in a moment.
Cool.
I wanted to add some fog to the foreground there. So I've got fog above my actual house on Haunted Hill type of thing. I wanted to get some skulls in. I wasn't sure about where I wanted to position them on the map, so I drew them on their own layer, to Anna's point earlier on. And then I actually started doing my coloring. Now, my coloring is actually a group here. It's multiple layers. It's in a smart object. And obviously, this is sitting on my background right now. But you'll notice, and this is where Anna was talking about earlier about how you might want to change something or experiment a little bit. So here I am, I've done my background and it's actually conflicting with my foreground. And it wasn't sitting right. It was actually beginning to get hard to understand what the main map was and what I'm meant to be looking at. So I actually added a huge saturation level to the background here, and it kind of just sets it back. It just put it in the background over there. In fact, let me just turn that on as well. Oh, no, not that one. There we go. And you'll see that it's become a lot more muted. It's kind of like sort of taking a back seat on it. Well, let's just throw that on too. And I just built up on this. And a lot of my details, like little tables and things like that, I've put on separate layers so I can copy them across if I want to as individual items. I drew, actually, so that is an original Satine Phoenix and Jameson, but they weren't happy being zombies, so let's get rid of them. I added labels and I put them on. I always do labels as their own little group because you're going to need to edit them and move them individually later on. And you can see already this thing's beginning to really take shape. And what are we on here? About 10 or so labels and various groups and stuff. Compass rose, as per usual. Make sure it's on its own label group. Lots of labels in there, or lots of layers, I should say, in there, because I want individual things to sit on top. Let's say this pumpkin is sitting on top of the white background. This frame is sitting on top of everything. So it's that trace paper effect, you know, one on top of the other. So
How many layers
yeah,
is that, Alyssa? Do you know? Is that another 8 layers or something? Or
well, actually, so you know what? Let's take the compass rose here actually is quite a few.
okay.
It's easily about it's got to be about 40, 50 because of
Wow.
the text.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always keep the text separate.
Yeah, but text aren't true layers in Photoshop. They're text objects, so they're a little bit different than full bitmap layers, so to speak.
But I also have the individual icons here as separate. This is separate. The background is separate. The frame here on top is separate. The frame has a layer effect on it. The Gavicon is separate. The X1V is separate. So there's a few there because of that. And then, of course, a little bit of legalese, a curtain that I had to add to this area. And then the true Sateen and Jameson. This will be what's on the final map right here, folks. Oops, not that one, right here. This is the one that they eventually approved. They were good with that because they are, at heart, vampires. And a little U2 Can Cthulhu to designate the U2 Can Cthulhu room. So overall, there's probably quite a few layers in this one, but hopefully it helps understand why I was doing different layers. It's like, right down here, I drew the tentacles in black, but then colored them in afterwards. And I just layered it. There was probably about 3 layers of coloring on top of each other right there. And I typically start with a medium color and then do my dark colors and then do my highlights. And I tend to paint my miniatures in much the same way.
And now we should mention that there is one other thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that is selection. What you can do when you have like a layer like that, you can make a selection that so you can't, that's basically a boundary. They usually call it the marching ants. Is like a thing that goes around that you can simply tell, I want to paint within this limit and not go outside it. You can put a boundary before, and then you can just do it inside, and you will not go outside of it, so to speak. It's
do you want to
selection.
show that on the map that you just had?
I can show. Hang on a second here.
Watch this. I'm going to get tricky here. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
Ha ha ha! Now
Yes,
off the straight
it works.
strings.
So let's do here. So I hope you can see this.
All right.
So what you can do is that you can, so you can simply say, I just want to select something. So you have a square. So I can just select a little square here, and you get these marching ants. I hope you can see them in the final resolution here. So you basically have marching ants. So if I take a layer, I make a new layer above the blood here, and I simply have layer 2. And if I paint here, and let me switch color here so I can go, and we use a green color here. There's some puke or something like that someone spewed out. Now what I do, it only comes inside that selection. And so I can't paint outside it. So if I want to change something, then that is it. And what you can do with this, let me delete that and show you a more kind of example. Let's say I want to change the colors of the chairs and the tables.
Yeah, that's good.
And without any, what I can do is that I control click this layer now, and the door, everything that is on that layer is changed. So now if I want to say that maybe I want them to be like marble or something like white, almost white, I can just go in here, and then I'll change to a more basic brush, and I take away the texture and the noise. There we go. And now I can just go in here and hang on a second, it's the wrong layer. So there we go. And then I can just paint white, and these things will be white and nothing else. And I can just do real quick above it. So you can use selection as a way to very quickly select something. You can select a lot of things. You can control click on a layer like I did with this, and you only get the things that are painted on that layer. Or you can select and click and say, I want to select something that has a particular color, or I want to select, so you can select from color, you can select from brightness, you can select from everything that is on the layer. I can select walls, for instance. If I deselect here, I can use the mask and click control on the mask. Now I've selected everything, all the black walls here. So if I want to go in here and simply say, well, I want to tweak that or something, and now I can paint, let's say I want to have some dark blue or kind of purple scary thing here. So I want to have some Cthulhu influence or whatever, something that is going in for the walls here. I can just paint it on here, and it will only be inside the walls here. It will never touch the room or outside.
Actually, and it paints over the room to show that it doesn't affect the room.
Oh yeah, so I can just paint everywhere here, and as soon as I go outside,
That's
that
really
room,
cool.
yeah, so that's selection. You can use selection to limit. That way you can do it real quickly without going overboard. And masks, here I have a fixed mask, but you can also feather the mask. So let's say I want to have like an aura. So what I do is that I can go in here and modify, and I can put a feather that is 10 pixels. And now when I paint, there will be a little, should be a little kind of, oh, hang on a second. That's because I need to disable the mask. Hang on a second. No, I should. That was it was a dumb layer to let me use the sketch here instead. So I can simply go and now I get like a little bit of an incursion here automatically. I can now taint the sides of the room.
You can see it. That's
lightly
nice.
purple, like I have some walls, there's like some purple ooze that is coming out of the walls in just 10 pixels gradually into the room. I don't have to worry about it. It comes automatically. So I just need to figure out which layer to put it on. Now it's on the sketch layer. That might be a dumb idea. So I should go back and do that was the sketch layer. So yeah, I can, you can put it on the separate layers, so to speak. Now
Meerkat asks, is this trick work in Clip Studio Paint?
A lot of this probably works. Most tools, they have selection, and they have, you can modify the selection. So it works in GIMP and Krita and stuff, and it should work in the other ones
as
too.
long as you can apply like a selection to it, whether it be through a magic wand or whatever.
Yeah,
the method.
Exactly.
If you can get a selection, you'll be able to do what Anna's doing.
Yeah. So then you automatically, you can get like an incursion here, like the walls are spewing out poison or some nasty ooze effect or something like that comes to the room. So you can do a lot of cool stuff that way you can add. So selection is a wonderful way of, or masking, it works the same. Masking is like a permanent selection tied to that layer. Selection is something dynamic that you can turn on and off for any layer, so to speak. And this way I can simply say, well, now I want to splatter blood, and I can just, and hang on a second. So
I use selections a lot actually on my blue.
And I can inverse it. So now I can spew blood everywhere here, but not outside it. So I can just inverse it. So now it's blood. I spew blood, but not outside the room, so to speak, not over. So selection can go back and forth and stuff. So that is a way of limit yourself. So it becomes like a coloring book, so to speak, when you do it.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
All the options that you have, you know, and just making it very, very simple. And trust me, like Anna gives me a session here and there on training, and then I forget half of it. I mean, it's like, you know,
and remember that
takes time.
What we do on these shows is not telling you every little menu or whatever. This is
tricks.
Basic what you need to learn. So you need to learn layers, mask, blend modes, and layer effects, and brushes. We haven't gone into deep, but that's the other thing. You need to tweak the brush shading, meaning you can work with one big brush, you can work with a textured brush, you can work with a brush that splatter little bits and pieces of color and everything in between, so to speak. So brushes is a whole different topic itself. You can use little images like stamps, like footprints. You can put footprints on an image or whatever. Brushes can be almost anything, any type of image and color combination, and you can turn it into a brush. And you can paint texture like grass, or you can paint like a hard color, or use something. And brushes also work with blend modes. So you can kind of multiply. If you want water that is deeper, you have a blue brush and you put multiply, and that means that every brush stroke, and you put like small opacity, and every brush stroke the water gets bluer and deeper, so to speak. So that's so it goes. So opacity, blend mode and stuff work for both brushes and layers.
Lots of great stuff, and it's always learning on that too, a little at a time.
And also save brushes. So if you come up with a cool brush that do something cool, then you save it. So that way you can load in the brush automatically and just continue to do it.
I've got
Use the same
thousands of
over.
brushes.
Exactly. I'm not that much, but I have a couple of 100 to 300 brushes.
I've actually had to like not use them
Mhm.
until I need them.
Yeah.
Because I've got
And
so
you-
many.
Yeah, and you can save them in groups for different. I mean, I have texture brushes, I have dungeon brushes, I have water brushes, and stuff like that. So yeah.
The moon on that GaryCon map was actually a brush.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It just stop. There's a moon.
Yeah, and there is a lot of cool brushes. You can go to websites and find cool brushes that others have done for the blood effects, or the if you want to have.
Oh yeah,
sorts of cool stuff.
like anything you want. Like you could type in trees,
Mhm.
Photoshop brush.
Yep.
And there'll be so many brushes
Yeah,
out there
and
that
you
are
can-
trees.
Oh, and they're pre-done.
Mhm.
They're
You can buy,
Wow.
they're professional ones. You can buy. They're awesome
Wow.
sites where you can buy cool brushes for all sorts of stuff.
And
that-
there's lots.
yeah.
There's lots for free though.
Exactly. There are lots
for
of free ones, and they're usually a bit harder to find. But Google around a bit, and you can find well, you can turn any image into a brush. So you can do it once, make it a brush, and then you can use it
Okay.
everywhere, so to speak. So
Great.
there's
Great,
a lot of different
great
shortcuts. So
idea.
templates, and if you've done something cool, save it, and then you don't start from scratch every time. So don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So save what you have, and save a PSD file or a Tiff or XCF if you work in GIMP, and use it as a template the next time, so to speak. So you have the layer effects and
So
stuff already done.
Here's a dumb trick that I do. Say I have the Order of York symbol and I want to put it on another character. I open them both and I just copy the layer of that onto the other entire other doc, other thing.
works.
And it
Yeah.
works.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
even have to touch it, you know. So
Yep.
and then I got to just reposition it slightly and it's done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so you only have to do anything the thing in first once, right? One time you should have to be able to do it.
And the general
Yeah.
rule is when you open a file, save it under a new name
Yep.
before you do anything. So you
It
don't
prompts
screw up
now
the
because
previous.
there was
Yeah.
a complaint and it actually
Yeah.
prompts.
Yeah.
So North Shore asked, have you seen the KM Alexander brush packs? I don't know what they are.
Oh yeah, I've heard about them. I think I've downloaded them, but I haven't really used them.
Okay.
But they're cool. Yep, they're really cool. Yep.
Excellent. Alyssa, other tricks of the trade there for what you do here with paint and draw? I mean, I know this has gone really. It's been a great discussion so far. Really finding out some nice tips.
Maybe I should show the Chaosium.
Let's
map
do it!
because I've been
Oh,
putting
yes.
it off too long.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that this time without completely disconnecting us.
There we go.
All right, so that's not it. This is it right here. So
There you go. Mhm.
lots of layers on this one, by the way. I've got lots of groups. We've talked about layers. I'm not going to go into it in any more, sort of deeper depth, but just to kind of zoom in on a couple of things here. This pink hatch fill was actually a complete layer. Actually, I'm just going to select this here. It's apparently called fill, not fill with a P. I'm going to convert this to layers just so we can see what I've got going on. My usual black ink style going on here, folks. Nothing different. But you'll see on the left side, I actually have two layers. One is the pink. One is the hatch that's on it. You'll notice that the hatch has kind of got this weathered look to it, where there's little bits missing. That is a mask. Let's break that down.
Oh, wow.
So there's my ink.
Okay.
Here's the pink fill.
Right.
The pink, by the way, this salmon pink comes from a map from 1890, and I love the color so much. I'm like, I'm going to use that. So this is
Nice.
all actual colors from the period, including the blue that you see here. But this is the pink. What they did back in the day is they would have this hatch fill over the top, but because these are old maps, it would be kind of like not perfect. So I actually created a pattern of this stroke here, and I filled in the whole lot. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to disable this layer mask,
So it's
and I'm going to disable this layer mask. The whole map was filled with this pattern, guys, and this color. The whole map. And then Anna spoke about this literally just 5 minutes ago. What I did is I did a select. So all of my buildings were not selected. And I masked out the pink color. Well, that actually is my fill, but I masked out what I didn't want to appear. Let's enable that layer mask too.
Okay.
And then I actually just came across as a mask with an eraser, and it was a brush that is a very irregular brush. It was almost like a spray pattern eraser. And I could just roughly went over the top of it as a mask. So nothing is permanently deleted.
Wow.
Yep. And that's the beauty of masking, is that you work non-destructible, meaning you can always go back and you don't need to worry about undo. You can just paint black or white to show something, black to hide it.
And in this one, it worked really, really well, because honestly, as I was going through it, I was like, oh crap, I've missed a building.
Yep.
Well, no problem. Just draw in the building and then alter your mask.
Yep.
And then you get the pink, you get the hatch and everything else. I didn't have to create that from scratch. I didn't have to create it anew. It's already there.
Yep.
For me.
And once you worked out the textures, and it's like I had the dungeon floor in my little dungeon map. I've done these dungeon floors at my resolution and just drag it in, and then I can mask it out.
Wondering endlessly, this is actually Photoshop. This is just Photoshop. There's nothing crazy going on here, by the way. This is a brush right here. That tree is a brush. And I just wanted to, oh, by the way, this dotted line is a brush.
Wow.
The coloring, individual layers of coloring, and again, taken off an 1890 map. This is Buckingham Palace, by the way, everyone. This is where the Queen lives. My family and I had an argument right about here when we visited London back in the day. But no, seriously, this is just Photoshop. You'll notice an abundance of lack of layers going on here. And that's because I'm actually doing the layers over in InDesign. And I've imported this file into InDesign, and I'm putting the layers on in that program. Then I export it as a PDF.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And InDesign is a program not to create images, but to put images and text together for layout, for books and printing stuff and so on.
Maybe I could even, well, no, I probably shouldn't open that right now because my computer would probably go, ugh. But yeah, maybe for another program we could show that. But yeah, I mean, a few layers of text in Photoshop is fine. I found that it can't handle much. It really starts to choke hardcore.
Yeah, Photoshop is not your friend for a lot of cool text layers and text labeling and stuff. That's not the strength. Illustrator is 10 times better, and Inkscape and other tools are way better at handling text. Photoshop is getting better though, so it's and eventually I think the Illustrator and Photoshop will blend together into one tool.
This map here, by the way, Anna, heavy on the masks on this one. Old school blue type of style.
Yep. Josh Pop will be so pleased when he sees
I'm actually going to turn off a lot of these layers, like every single layer for now. Here's my ink layer. I draw it in the color that I want. Okay, so I mean, nothing crazy going on here, right? But I do then have a grid here, and I'm actually going to disable the layer mask. Because here's the grid. Every time I start with the grid and the ink, this is where I start. And then I actually select all of the outside of the ink layer, and I mask out everything else. I actually leave a little bit of a gap. I kind of make the mask a little bit smaller, because then the paper's gone, right? Or the grid on the paper is gone. But then when we actually start coloring this in, let's actually use
you see that white line around it. That's cool.
This. And that's because I masked this area, and then I made it 10 pixels smaller, and then I masked it.
That's
and
cool.
I kind of like this effect, this bold white line.
And that's when you use when you can adjust selection by 10 pixels, or like I did, you can modify the selection, feathering, and just move it a certain amount of pixels, because then you can, instead of painting that by hand around it and getting it iffy, you can just use 2 clicks in the menus and boom, you get it done. So by understanding and knowing your software, you can save hours, even days of work at times.
And right now, I mean, I used to erase the grid I wasn't using. And what a newbie trick. No, you don't need to. Just mask it. Because now the grid is there every time. Same with the paper. I just bring this paper, this blue paper in every time. Remove the mask. I've got the paper anew. I can then create a new mask on it. I am actually got a new layer on top because I like to kind of make it. The old school blue was very hard on the eyes. It obviously had a purpose, you know.
Yeah, it was to make them copyright them back when you had to go Xerox copy.
But it is tough on the eyes, so I kind of pay homage to it, but I kind of want it to look a little bit almost old and weathered. That's just another layer, bit of spray pattern on the top there. And then I tend to keep my doors, my compass rose, and my title all separate.
That's a good
as their own little groups and numbers. Because then I can move them around
like
and
the compass
reuse
rose.
them.
And also let's mention a little bit about grids. When you have a grid like this that you want to put on your Dungeon maps, first have it on a separate layer, of course, but tweak blend modes and opacity, because you don't really want a grid that is like hard normal 100%, because it can look terribly kind of harsh. So work with opacity and blend mode, maybe a darken, maybe a multiply, an overlay 50-80%, something like that, can make it look, and it can blend across.
Well, actually, so talking about that, Anna, here's a real world example. This grid is at 50% opacity.
And it's easy
there
because,
it is at 100%. Look at the difference.
Oh wow.
It's horrible, right? So like Anna is saying, just play with the opacity. Now look, it's a lot easier.
Great.
And if you have like a full color texture on your dungeon floor, then you need to maybe tweak different blend modes, because otherwise it might, because some parts are dark, some parts are bright, and you want the grid to be visible, slightly visible, regardless of it. Then maybe a difference, an exclusion. There's a whole bunch of blend modes. So sift through them, find the one that you like that works for the project you're doing.
And by the way, folks, she's not just whistling Dixie here either. I mean, like if I go to this skull layer right here, it actually does have some opacity. But let's say I wanted to see if I could get a nice result on this. Like I can actually just cycle through these. I'm just rolling my mouse button right now.
Exactly. You can then go back and forth.
Just go through them and go, oh, well, actually, that kind of looks cool. You know, and you can just sort of see. You don't need to understand what screen is necessarily doing. That's kind of next level. Just see if you're getting a good result out of it. When
you scroll like that, set the opacity to 60-70% or something. Don't keep it 100, and then scroll through, and you can find really cool results. And then you know what to.
These are all 70 right here. Even this one's kind of cool. Because actually, I should have done this on the final map. That's a nice one.
So cool. And 100% might be a little bit harsh. And there's a lot of effects you don't see when you use 100%. And a lot of these blend effects don't work that well on black and white. They want something in between. But but Google it or watch YouTube videos where they talk about this stuff, because there's like a myriad of super cool things you can do with this.
It's a little bit next level. I like playing with it, just like Anna is saying.
And it's always a learning experience too. You can always teach yourself some new tricks, you know. And the main thing about saving the brushes is so huge. I mean, that's just that's just the amount of time saved alone for doing that. I would never consider that.
Oh no, and you absolutely should. It's like I have flagstone brushes, I have tree brushes, I have foliage brushes, and I just keep them in groups, like Anna said earlier on. Because then if I need, I have a constellation brush of planets and moons and things like that. I don't need that all of the time, but when I do, I bring in that set.
It's like I have like 10 different textures for different bogs and wetlands and stuff like that. I even have like 5 different ones for snow or glaciers and stuff for textures and things. So and different textures. There's like hundreds of different textures I can reuse.
So your machines are not super crazy, right? Alyssa, you said yours was 4,000 roughly.
No, so Anna definitely has a nice graphics card. Mine's a 2080 Ti. I haven't gone into the 3 series yet.
Yeah, that costs 2,000 by itself.
Right, yeah, you definitely
crazy
pay for
price.
it.
Yeah, but I don't need. That's not for this. This is for my flight simming. That's why I need.
You know what, young lady, I understood. But no, I mean, Anna and I have decent machines. We haven't got cutting edge,
no,
you know, but they've got a bit of oomph. Yes. And we both recognize that we need memory because, Photoshop or whatever programs we're using will lean on it.
Yeah.
We have decent machines, but they're not incredible. And honestly, the GaryCon map, you could do that on a laptop. There's nothing crazy going on with that GaryCon map. There's nothing crazy going on with my Blue School that I just showed you. You could do that on a tablet, guaranteed, because none of those are large maps. Anna and I, when we get into the big maps, and Anna certainly does bigger than me more often, that's when you need the true computing power. But if you're doing something like 8.5 by 11, or maybe a small poster, for your regular use, or maybe a small publisher, you're good with a regular machine. I guarantee it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yep.
So look at that. The 2 hours are almost up. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Flew by.
We're like, you know what? We're going to be, what's the agenda? This has been a great discussion. And, maybe we'll highlight some other in-depth things, talk about some other programs like down the road, like Incarnate or other ones that are made for doing these.
We're definitely going to do that, I think.
Yeah. Because then you have the tools to start. You don't need to do it from scratch, but there is sort of fun and you can find your own style. And I really like to do that simple that I showed here, so to speak, a little bit. This was the 2-minute version. If I used it for my own games, it will be the 10-minute version of the same style, but it's very, very simple. So I can produce maps in an hour, meaning that Mega Dungeon I did in a couple of hours. And
the funny thing though, Anna, it's like, okay, so I draw my own maps for my own game, my homebrew game. And if I sometimes I draw them and print them and put down a big huge poster on the table or something.
Yeah.
But even if I'm drawing with those dry erase pens on like the maps that are dry erase, sometimes I'm just drawing a line, and I'm like, my players are going to judge me because I'm a professional cartographer.
Oh yeah, I feel I'm telling my players that you don't get the professional treatment. Now you're in my home game, so you get the crappy.
I'm just doing dry erase here, and it better look good.
But my players keep telling me that they look fantastic. I still don't believe them. So yeah. So you get the quick and dirty version of stuff. So yeah.
So now we'll do some shout outs, and we have 5 giveaways. Two Frog God 25 gift certificates, 2 Darlene Haunted Highlands PDFs for that map. All right. And then 1 PDF from Trollord as well. Your choice of whatever, just like in the fundraiser, your choice of whatever PDF you want, not a compilation, but of anything, book, whatever. So we'll do those 5 giveaways tonight. So why don't we do some shout outs? So Alyssa, what is going on?
What am I doing? Okay, so I have been heavily focused on getting that GaryCon map ready, and it was actually approved today, so that's great. That's going out. It will be at GaryCon as some numbered prints on archival quality canvas. It will also be a poster and about the various halls. So if you're going to GaryCon, you're going to see my map there. If you would like it to be signed, look for me, and I will happily sign it. We're still working on the labels for the Chaosium Gaslight map. Here shortly, hopefully I am allowed to talk about the secret map that I also did for them. Maybe I'll get to show it on this show here shortly. And then what I'm going to actually then move into after this is I think I am going to draw 1925 Shanghai. That's what I'm going to do next.
Oh. It's awesome. What's the date on the rough date of start of that?
Shanghai, April.
Okay.
I'm going to do Shanghai, New York City. I'm probably going to draw the entire country of Peru, all period 1920s, and basically, I'm going to do some battle maps and components to battle maps and some BTT assets, etc., all for Call of Cthulhu. So if you're into Call of Cthulhu, if you run Call of Cthulhu, I'm going to start shifting my focus to Call of Cthulhu content. You're going to go into a hotel, I got you covered. You go to the Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo, I got you covered with an actual period map that is accurate, because there isn't one out there. There just isn't. But I've got the floor plans of the original hotel, and I'm going to draw it in full detail.
Wow.
I'm going to hook you up, baby. So that's going to be my focus for the next couple of years.
And note that Alyssa gets a chance to kill me at GaryCon in the Call of Cthulhu game.
And I will film it as he cries at the table because only 5 minutes has passed. Hey, Jay, great to see you. Big hugs. Roll for initiative. You're dead.
What do you do next? Yes, exactly.
It won't be like that. It's going to be a wonderful game. It's a Cthulhu Invictus game. We're going to be doing a GaryCon Sunday morning, and Cthulhu Invictus is basically Cthulhu, but based in ancient Roman times.
I like
and
that.
Jay is going to be there as one of the characters.
I saw the great group you have. Wow, I was like, whoa.
It's going to be a group.
It's going to
be a great group of people.
Yes, that's looking forward to that. One of my things going on at GaryCon. And Alyssa, thank you. What another fantastic show discussion. And well, go ahead, Anna, and I'll talk about our show at GaryCon.
Okay, yeah. So I just posted. I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago. I've been kind of in a brain fog because real world events the last 2 days. So if I'm a little bit off the mark today, that's the reason. But anyway, I posted a sneak peek into updating the Blackmore area of the Greyhawk map as a future project. So yes, Dan Boggs got me into that a little while ago. So that's a planned project, and I'm sketching it out, have some ideas and stuff like that for my top tier patrons about bringing in an homage to Arneson's Blackmore on the Greyhawk map, because I think that will be a big needed upgrade to that forgotten area of the Greyhawk map. So that's an upcoming project that I'm sketching out and have the ideas and stuff. So that's going to go in the background, probably maybe for 6 months, a year, maybe this fall or something like that. We can get it in. It depends a little bit on other stuff, how quickly it can be done, so to speak. And then I have a post that I was supposed to have posted today, but it will be delayed a few days thanks to real world events that I'm thankfully 5,000 miles away from, but it still affects me a little bit for previous professional reasons and stuff like that. So I got tangled up giving some advice and things, and so that has kind of derailed me for a little bit. But it's coming back from it, so don't worry. And I'm staying here at home mapping, so I'm not going anywhere. So until GaryCon comes. But what next up is for my mid-tier patrons, Meyer patrons, that will be a work through with a lot of heraldry on my campaign map on Shieldlands. There will be Ayusian heraldry, there will be the Shieldlands heraldry, and some write-up on that. I'm about halfway done with that blog post, but it needs a little bit more into it. And then for my low-tier patrons, to not forget them, there is a new batch of heraldry coming that way too. And then I'm also working on the second batch, final batch on the 576 Atlas maps. I'm on 50 now, I think, of 98 or something like that. So it will be about a week more, and I'm done with the other 45 that was left, so to speak. The first 45 is already on my Patreon for my patrons, and the other 40, the next 45 or so will be coming in about a week. That will be, and then the first version of the Atlas is done, and then nice. I will work on the hex version of the 576 map, and I work on the 598 map as well in the background, so to speak. And that one will, well, I say a couple of weeks. No, it will take longer. I'm afraid. It depends on how much, because a lot of the work I already have, and it will be based on the 576, and I need to upgrade it. So we'll see a little bit how long it will take, but hopefully not too long, so to speak.
Tom, oh, thanks, yeah. Tom the Vindicator with 5 gifted subs. Thank you very much.
That is that's what's going on in the moment, so to speak. And then there are some other secret under NDA projects still that we talked about with Jay and so on this morning, and we'll see when that can happen. So there's some momentous. Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited. There. I am super duper excited.
Yep. And then I will spend the summer working on the Shieldlands map and getting the campaign ready. So there will be a whole slew of updates and stuff, including crit wall and a whole bunch of stuff that I need for my Shieldlands campaign going to D&D in the castle this fall, so to speak. So that will be my summer project.
Slaughter them all.
Yep. So there will be a whole bunch of stuff with that, plus some new testing, because there is new software and stuff coming. So that this summer will be some cool stuff on that too. So yep. And then we have GaryCon coming up too.
Yes.
That I thankfully don't have to plan that much for, but Jay, take it away. Yeah.
All right. So I don't have a banner for that, but so we have GaryCon. We have Friday. It's at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. We have the Fantasy Mapping Show episode 10. Our special guest is Kafir, Cave Geek Art. So I forgot, of course, to I'll pop them up, but let me do this first here. Let me switch.
If any of you guys watching now or in the future are going to GaryCon, get in our show on Friday, okay? It's gonna be a riot. Kafir, Cave Geek Art, is an incredible guy. Yeah, instantly awesome. Wonderful, instantly lovable, and his art style and his materials are extremely unique.
You want to see this map up to date so far?
Bring it.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Wow, I love that forest.
It's coming along now. Rob Phantom got this as a complimentary gift when we hit $20,000 in donations.
I'm jealous already.
During the St. Jude fundraiser last weekend. I mean, our goal was 15. We did 10 last year. We did 20. We up to $20,490. And Kafir was generous enough to say if we broke 20, he would give this to the top donator. If the top donator
can we give him a shout out like here on Twitch so everyone understands his channel?
Yeah,
he live streams his stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I rated it into him Thursday last night. I actually rated into Kafir last night, and he's on now, as well. So
and
definitely.
William Babel, it's the leather map.
Yeah, absolutely.
In deer skin.
It's crazy, unbelievably good. I think I got a larger out map. There we go of it. He just sent these to me today. That's where he is.
I think he's actually getting better.
Yeah.
With each map, it just gets better and better.
Yeah.
So he just sent me this as well. The Greyhawk map reference doc, and I got to give him the top 30 locations I want on the map. Critical, high, and so, I'm gonna have that to him by the end of the weekend, amongst all the other things I'm doing. But we'll have that to him. So I just wanted to shout.
So we'll be with him at GaryCon.
Yes, and he'll have a booth too.
And he is larger than life. Believe me, you've got to be in this show.
You can buy this in the print signed at GaryCon if you're there too. There will be prints available on this. Plus, there are 3 prints. If you're a donator and haven't gotten to you yet, you can do it as a signed print there, but that won't be available at GaryCon as well. So you can do that as your complimentary gift. All right. So does it continue to get even better this week? Sunday night I got Ed Greenwood, right? We have Ed Greenwood in 2 nights with Eric Mengi and Anna. We're going to talk villains of Greyhawk in the Realms. All right, it's going to be. Ed has promised, and unfortunately there's more FRs than Greyhawks. 3 new FR villains and 1 new Greyhawk villain.
Ooh,
from scratch.
Awesome.
All right, he's promised them for Sunday. We're also going to give away this little tidbit, which is this is like Ed said on the in chat to me. Well, this was in case they hated Forgotten Realms. So we have these Endless Stairs, which is CM8 by Ed Greenwood. So we got a couple of those. So we got some cool things for Sunday night, and then Ed will be back shortly after that too. Next Wednesday, Legends of the Lord Living Greyhawk Ket, a highlight. So we got another Living Greyhawk discussion for all you Greyhawkers out there. The Ket triads will be on with Casey Brown. That'll be a nice one. That's Wednesday, March 2nd. It gets better. There'll be games. I'll have 4 streams next week. The only one not planned is Gavin a week from Sunday. But does it get any better? We got Ed back with Anna, Tony Winslow Brill, the Eric Boyd, and the actor Todd Stashwick playing in the 2-drink minimum game on next Saturday night. Now I've been talking to Todd a lot, and he sent me this little tidbit. Where is it? So I showed this on Twitter and other places. So this is a book that he wrote with Brandon Clayla. It's really cool. I think I have the picture. Here we go. Mystic Libations. And it is Critical Cocktails for the Thirsty Adventurer. So it's an alcohol book. All right. So yes,
I need a copy of that.
Well, the great thing about this, and he was very kind, and I know it's a kind of a 5e term, but that's okay. It says, "Jay, may you always roll with advantage. Long live Greyhawk." So nice.
Wow.
Okay, I have a second one of these signed that we're giving away on that show that Saturday night. Okay.
Wow.
All right. What is the Blue Arrow thing? They are cocktail mixers.
See, there you go.
Cocktail mixers. We also, so we got a really cool, we'll give away one of these too, a nice dice bag with his dice, with his logo, the top hat with the mustache logo. You can, on the dice, you can see him in the picture there. We'll give away one of those. So we'll have 2 giveaways from him, in addition to our stratagem giveaways we normally have. So very nice of Todd. I gave Todd a Horror in the Hools copy, dual signed by Carlos and me. Sorry, Troy. But I did, and he's like, "Wow, this is awesome." I was like, "Yeah, well, got you next weekend." Morton Didiff is his character. He is a cousin to Smelf Eliador, and he's going to take over the storyline from what happened with Luke Gygax playing last time. That's kind of the way it'll go. So I won't want to ruin anything else for it, but it'll be a fun game. All right, going into Nut Realm. The Ever Mysterious Tim, Saturday, March 19th in the morning. We see the Underdog Session 5, and Tim just scares me. I'm going to get a 30-day ban or something. Where the episode is where the children are insane. Oh my!
Have a beep button.
Yeah, I'm gonna accidentally kick out the power supply or something.
Yeah, yep.
Oh my gosh! So that is Saturday, March 19th. And that's as far out as I want to go on special events right now. That's a morning game. So the crew's already set up for that. He's got his cast. But we got so much great stuff coming. And then the week after that, GaryCon, right? And the Fantasy Mapping Show. And there we go with that. And we also have Legends and Lore at GaryCon too. I'm DMing one event. I'm playing in 4. I signed up for event Tom Tullis game from Fat Dragon. I got in his game. I got in David Aho's game, an old school game. I got in Todd Stashwick's game. He's DMing. I got in his game, and I got in Alyssa's Call of Cthulhu game. So I'm playing in 4. So there you go. A full weekend. All right.
And you get to die in all of them.
Probably, absolutely. I probably will, but it's going to be a fun time. So let's do the giveaways. All right, your choices are. I'm assuming the Frog God 25s will go first, because you got the Darlene one is a PDF of the Haunted Highlands. It's in the same style as original map. 2 of those, and then 1 TLG choice PDF. All right. So let's do this. I'll give you all 10 seconds. Anyone who hasn't signed up, we'll do this 5. We're going to raid into the Mandy tonight. The Mandy did do a part of it, was part of the charity stream. So I'm going to return the favor and raid into the Mandy tonight. I also know Bashman's playing in that game right now, Alyssa. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so that's where we want to go into there. All right, here we go. I'm closing this out. Closing this out. It's only Friday. I have no stream for me tomorrow. Okay, I'm off tomorrow. So please note that. Get a nice Saturday off after last weekend.
You deserve it, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a blast. I mean, last weekend was so awesome. Like, we cannot believe the amount of money we raised. There was just nuts.
Yeah, that was,
fun time. And Eric Mona everyone was priceless. Here we go. First winner. Wandering Endlessly. Grats. Wandering Endlessly. I have the code, so I can just send it to you in Discord or via the Whisper for Frog God Games site. All right, you got it. Wandering Endlessly. I'm assuming you want the $25 Frog God. Frog God 25. That would be where I'd go. I know I just saw you on. Let me make sure you're still in there. I don't see Wandering On now. Is Wandering On? Did Wandering claim it yet? We'll hold off. There you go.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Oh, you'll take last pick? Okay. All right, Wandering. That's really kind of you. All right. So I'm going to give you a Haunted Highlands Darlene map. Okay? Very, very, very kind of you, Wandering. Nice of you to do. Next winner. Bogart 34, Gratz. I know you're on. I just saw you. Awesome. Gratz. $25 gift certificate, Frog God. Next winner. Phoenixy!
Oh,
There you go. He said, can I get lucky again? And the answer is Phoenixy Walkie. Yes. There you go. $25 gift certificate to Frog God Games, Phoenixy. Exactly what you were looking for. Yeah, there you go, man. And not one of the nicest guys in the entire Twitch industry world of D&D streamers. So I would check him out. Dude does a lot for charity. Really wonderful. Yep. Two more. Amy, do you want the Haunted Thessalodorian? Amy, do you want the Haunted Highlands map from PDF from Darlene, or do you want your choice of whatever PDF you want from your choice on that one? So you just tell me.
Amy. Awesome.
Yeah, you want your choice open from Frog God. Let me know. You want the Darlene? Okay, got it. I don't have the codes are coming from Chuck tomorrow morning. He's out tonight, and he was in a rush because he was in that meeting with Anna and me. So Amy got you on that. So I'll have that to you tomorrow. Last one. This is your choice of any PDF, single, any of them. Any of the great books they have, compilations. If you want Warden, any of them. So Dismas, Gratz, a crafter, which is awesome. He's on. There you go. I will get that over to you. So you get that from Troller Games, your choice. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you. And thank you. I saw a question, and that was. I was like,
thank you
a question
for
popped
that
up.
other woman that
And Anna.
every night.
It's been a long day. Trust me, it's been a long real life work
long
week.
day. Yes, it's been crazy. I even got a nap for an hour before we did the show here. Otherwise, I would be in complete brain mush, I guess.
God bless you, hard-working tabletop nerds. We love you.
So please, everyone, hang in there and go over and give the Mandy a follow. And remember, the Mandy is a member of the Slav Squad. So they will be back soon.
You learned to say that.
I've learned to say it finally. Yep. So,
yep.
Once again, what a great show. See you in a month. It's actually on the 25th, 1 month from today.
Oh, yeah.
We will be at Gary Con for the next show, for the next one. I'm going to try to stream it with a trick. I'm going to try and hotspot my phone and do it through my phone.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah,
and we'll see if it works. I mean, who knows? If it does, we're going to record it no matter what, and I'll do it after the fact. I'm trying to cheat there because it's almost impossible to get good service. So I'm going to try and go through my phone and see if it works. We'll give it a shot.
Okay.
All right, everyone, have a great night, and we'll see you soon. See you Sunday night for a great
everyone.
gabbing. Thank you, and everyone, keep on gaming. Have fun. Have a great weekend. Hit the wrong button, Jay. No, I hit the right one there. There we go. Awesome. Rating in. Also, Kirsten's playing in that too, and she's a Slav Squad member as well. So we got 2 Slav Squatters in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you Sunday night. Awesome.
There it is.
Hey. And really well.
Yeah, that was great. All right. Let's make sure sound. Okay, ending this up, shutting this down.